Hey everyone, I don't know if Anthony's frozen or not.
What was that you were saying, man?
It's just saying, like on your side, it was completely frozen.
Was it completely frozen right out of the gate?
Yes, I was just like, hi everyone.
That's so funny. That's hilarious because I started this off by saying that if it didn't come through, I have no idea. That for some reason I'm having Wi-Fi issues, even though my Wi-Fi is working perfectly on every other device, and I haven't had any issues at all. And with my laptop right now, it's not working, and I'm just a foot short from where I'm sitting right now for my Ethernet cable to connect directly into my router. So hopefully that's not too big of an issue moving through this. If it is at any point, I'll probably just make Mike the star for a moment, and I will move some furniture so I can get a little bit closer to the router. So you guys in the comments, and I guess you as well, Mike, just let me know. But yeah, a bit of an unorthodox way of starting this, but welcome everybody for another episode of Random Rambling. Super happy to be joined once again here in the live stream by my buddy Mike from the Z Review, his channel, the Z Review. I feel like I'm lagging a little bit. Hopefully not. I don't know how bad this is. But yeah, so Mike has been here on the channel a few times. He was just recently here for Luck of the Irish, a review for a Disney Channel original movie, which was an interesting rewatch, going back and revisiting it. And yeah, also had again. Did we cut out again?
Yeah, like just lagged a lot, and I don't know if you were speaking or what was going on.
Yeah. Frozen on your side. Damn it, bro. You gotta be kidding me. You gotta love technical difficulties on the fly. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna minimize myself really quickly. I'm gonna change my setup, connect directly into the router. But let's start this off. Mike, what got you into YouTube, man? It's the question I like to ask people right out of the gate. I'm gonna take myself off the screen, so feel free to just take the show for a moment. But what is it that made you start that YouTube channel and made you post your first YouTube video?
Well, I mean, when I first started YouTube, it was quite an interesting one. So at the time of my current job where I'm at, there was a guy called Curtis who I'd met when I just like started the job. And when I met Curtis, he kind of mentioned about like YouTube and YouTube like film kind of critics and stuff. At that point, I used to just go to the cinema quite a lot. For anyone that for anyone that doesn't know, here in the UK, I have like a cinema pass. So you can see as many films as you want, kind of per month for a set price. So sometimes I go like 3 times a day. Sometimes I go say 2 times. It just depends. So when I kind of first started my job, again, shout out to Curtis. Really know a lot about YouTube as such, and I didn't really watch it. So he introduced me to Chris Stuckman, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't really know this guy, so I thought, okay, I'll check him out, see what he's about. And yeah, when I saw Chris Stuckman, loved his reviews, and I just thought, wow, they're really interesting, and he has like a really good take on films. However, there was 1 or 2 kind of movies he reviewed that I wasn't really agreeing with him, or I just thought, okay, well, he's got that wrong on that occasion because I like really enjoyed that movie, or he hated it, etc. So after watching him, and then got introduced into like the Flip Pick and stuff like that. If you guys don't know who they are, definitely YouTube them. But yeah, when I first kind of got into them and got like kind of watched their reviews, I was just like really intrigued by them, and I thought, well, actually, hold on. I was like, I've got maybe some different thoughts to what they're saying, or like some different takes to what they're saying. But also, in general, I'm just like a really creative person, so I like to kind of try my hand at anything once. If I suck at it, then I just don't do it again. But if I have, if I'm good at it or I enjoy it, at least just keep trying it. So maybe like a lot of people don't know about me is that in my spare time I like writing books. Purely fictional, of course, but I like kind of writing on topics that aren't touched on a lot, and I do have a book self-published on Amazon. So
Interesting.
kind of like starting YouTube, man. It was like just a really cool venture. Again, like I'd watched like quite a few TV shows, or I was always at the cinema or the movies, and I just thought, well, like, why not give my take on this? Because sometimes I feel like, again, the kind of big boys and girls of YouTube and I just felt like sometimes they get it wrong when they do the movie reviews, or I don't know if they maybe get paid to say it. Something. I mean, I don't know. So yeah, I kind of just thought like, look, I'm gonna just put myself on camera. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, then I've got nothing to lose. I can delete the channel. No one sees that. Don't have to show my kids in the future. So yeah, just like, I don't know, a couple of different avenues as such. But being honest, like, since I've been doing YouTube for maybe coming up 3 years in September, just really enjoy it, and I just find it kind of like a break from like getting like personal life, work life, and just something that I enjoy. And kind of big thanks to you as well, man. I've got to mention. I know I mentioned kind of like in the Look of the Irish video as well, and personal when we talk nearly every day. But just kind of thanks to you, kind of like being accepted into this awesome community with like Rashad, Blacktastic, Dave, Jacob, and the other guys who I may collab with in the future. But yeah, just really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. Let me start off by saying that I really do appreciate that you hit me up. By the way, just realized I got a bottle of sriracha or something right there. For real quick, before I get into talking about everything you talked about, I want to say I did hear everything. For anybody who's wondering what was going on, I knew it was a bad idea. I decided to start the stream with Wi-Fi issues, and right out of the gate had a mess. So for anybody who started and was like, "Yeah, I'm not sticking around," bummer. For anybody who's watching right now or watched after the fact, seems like we fixed it. I'm plugged into the Ethernet cable. I had to kind of move and literally move furniture. I don't have like just random chairs sitting around, so I'm literally had to move this love seat, and I'm sitting in the middle of the living room right now, like dead center, very awkwardly placed, because my Ethernet cable was just shy, like maybe a foot and a half or so, from connecting from my router into my laptop. So we're all good now. It seems like there's no connectivity issues now. But yeah, man, that's cool. It seems like we pretty much had a very similar kind of path. I've been watching YouTube videos and movie-related movie-related videos in general for years now. And somebody like Chris Stuckman, the Flick Pick, those are two of my biggest initial inspirations. And then it was other people or other channels like Fandom Entertainment, or the Screen Junkies as they're also known. Honest Trailers, and they do the movie fights and I was introduced there to Dan Murrell, who recently split off to make his own channel, who is my favorite movie reviewer. He's like probably the one that inspires me the most. And I think that it's just the inevitable part of like you fall in love with the way somebody speaks about movies. But at the end of the day, because of the nature of film and it being subjective, there's just going to be those days where even the person you agree with 95% of the time, you'll be on the complete opposite end on a movie sometimes, and it kind of just draws you into be like, yeah, I definitely want to be able to you want to feel it. You kind of feel when you're watching the videos that you want to voice your opinion. You feel like you want to kind of be like, you want to butt in and just say something. Not that you want to be rude about it, but I know exactly what you mean, where it's just like, you feel this urge, this feeling to get your feelings out on a movie. And so it's one of those things where, yeah, starting the channel, at least for me, was very similar, and also, like you said, kind of like wanting to try things, wanting to try this creative outlet. And it is this great hobby to kind of come home to after a long day. And it's kind of rewarding, it can be disappointing. That's one thing I want to talk about throughout the course of this random rambling is, for anybody who doesn't know, Mike has literally got to be one of the most enthusiastic, just like positive, kind guys. And if you're anything like me and you're kind of easily discouraged, or you kind of get in your head about things, it's great to be able to have somebody like you as a friend, man. Because I was gonna say initially,
Thanks, man,
that I'm super grateful for the fact that you hit me up on Instagram. It was Instagram. You just hit me up one day and I think you said you wanted to do like a collab of some sort. And yeah, man, I just told you, hey, here's this Facebook group. Come on in. Let's do all this. And it's been great. I talked to Rashad recently, and he mentioned to me like that it was. He kind of said a similar thing to me, and he was kind of like thanking me, and like also saying like, because I started the group, and I started connecting with all these people. I started doing, and I did a collab similar to the ones I do now on somebody else's channel first, and I go, I really like this. So I started asking people here and there. And I only started doing them about a year ago, but I look back now and I've done so many collabs with various channels, some of the same channels. It's been great to see the bonds grow over time. And, you and I are just getting started, man. And so that's something that's exciting, where I look at like what I've done so far with like, Dave interpreting the stars, or the Big Rob Theory, or Rashad, or Q Reviews, Blacktastic, these guys that I've done so many collabs with, Benny Wan Strikes Back, Cinematic Tendency. It's just so cool to like look back. I have a playlist on my channel titled videos that feature other YouTubers, and every video that has any other YouTuber in it is in there, and it's just great sometimes to look at that and just kind of like look back at your body of work in a way and be like, it's a nice feeling. I don't know if you feel that way when you upload a video. Maybe you look back at a month's worth of videos and you're like, oh wow, like I put my time in, I put my effort in this month. You kind of feel good about yourself. Do you have a similar feeling?
Yeah, 100%. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head perfectly, really. So, since the start of the year, like I look at yourself and I look at like Jacob, for example, and Rashad, and you guys are uploading like so much great content, and it's just very regular. Whereas, kind of, I would say before this year, I was getting to a point where I'd maybe upload, once a month, or I don't know, kind of like when I was doing YouTube very early on. I would like kind of a bit of like discouragement. Can you touch on slightly? And I'm sure we'll talk about it in a bit. But yeah, I was getting like a video out, and I thought like, wow, I love this video. But then like after a couple of weeks, I had like 10 views, and I was like, well, like am I just wasting my time on this video? So yeah, kind of like since kind of collabing again with yourself, Big Rob Theory, etc. Yeah, I kind of like review my videos a lot as well, in a way. So don't get me wrong, I don't like have a big playlist, but I'll go back. It's fun to go back to like say one of my first ever videos, and I was like, wow, like what a noob. And yeah, just like I'll review that, and I'm like, wow, like I didn't have like great software at the time, or I didn't really know like much what I was doing. Like my first ever video, my Riverdale season 1 video that I actually did, first ever video on the channel. Like I had my brother-in-law was editing that video. I didn't even know how to do it myself. I just thought, okay, great, this 27-minute video, fantastic. Whereas if I edited myself, it could have been like maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of like reviewing that kind of catalog. But then kind of like yourself, sometimes I get like constructive feedback saying, look, you could have done this slightly different. And I'm like, oh, great, I reviewed it. I'm like, yeah, absolutely right. And yeah, kind of just like taking that forward, really.
Yeah, no, that's it's crazy to always hear other people's stories and how they feel about these kind of things on the other side, because you realize that it is very similar when you go back and you see yourself specifically, like you just mentioned. It's pretty crazy. Like for me, a big chunk of my earlier, I don't know if you've seen any of my early videos, but my first video, it's kind of set the path for a while. In the car, yeah, I reviewed it. I did a first video in the car, and I was just like, like, hey, I don't really know what this channel is going to be about. I just knew I was going to talk about movies. And then my first video, first ever, and I've considered taking it down. I'm not going to lie, just because of how cringe it is a bit. My first review was for Venom, and the Tom Hardy film. And Venom's always been one of my favorite characters growing up. I like the movie, not the greatest movie, but I like it. I like it for what it is. But yeah, it was like, number one, I'm like 30, 40 pounds lighter in that video. So like I looked a lot closer to you, like as far as like thinness, which is just, I've just decided to just gorge myself, I guess. But yeah, looking back at the video, it's so funny because right at the very beginning, I welcome, I didn't have an intro yet. I put the basic, like one of the basic iMovie, like repetitive loop music in the background. It sounded like I was giving a news report. And I started it off by saying like, we're gonna be talking about Venom, and I did this voice, and I did like this thing with my tongue, and I just, if you watch it, it's so cringy, and I can't go back and look at that video today. But I love looking back on it every here and there, and just really being able to realize like how far I've come, how comfortable I've gotten. I even, I'm super grateful to people like you, to Blacktastic, and to Rashad, like have given me so much constructive feedback. Like you said, it's so important when you're doing this, because if you're not open to it, then you're just never gonna, your videos are never gonna get better. You know what I mean? They're never gonna change. You're not gonna get better. And I actually, I just uploaded a review, thanks to you, essentially, for kind of setting the path. I reviewed Death Note on my channel, just dropped that with Blacktastic Media. But the reason I really did that was because I was like, oh, let me just do it as well. I recently just reviewed it over on Mike's channel, the Z Review, and then I'll be on his channel for Death Note 2, and then maybe a couple weeks after, I'll also be dropping a Death Note 2 review, most likely with Blacktastic again, just to follow the same kind of trajectory. What was I going to say? Yeah, but Blacktastic messaged me this morning, and he messaged me saying he saw the collab, and he just gave me some feedback and was very positive about how he felt like I had a lot of good flow in there. He says that he thinks that my live streams are helping me with my flow on camera, and so yeah, I really appreciate the positive words from the various friends I've made here on YouTube, because I know for me, I've said it a million times on this channel, I started the channel to find a sense of community. You know what I mean? I think we can all relate to. Especially, like I'm sure with you, like we're gonna get into this. This is kind of the next segment is gonna be Back to the Future, but Mike here is one of the biggest Back to the Future fans I've ever met, if not the biggest Back to the Future fan. You have tattoos and everything. We're gonna get into all that craziness. But what I was gonna say is that I'm sure there's no doubt been so many times where you talk to somebody about Back to the Future and you can just tell they don't give a rat's ass about your passion for it. Like they may be able to appreciate, like, oh yeah, Mike's the Back to the Future guy, just like with me. Anthony's the Star Wars guy. But you realize when you're talking to them that they only care so much, And so for me, starting a channel was part of that, being able to comment or, talk to people in the comments about things that we were similarly into. And so that's something I really love. But to shift gears just a little bit into what we were just talking about, Back to the Future, such a great series. I grew up loving it, always had a great time with it, especially the first two. But yeah, for me, as far as like the grand scheme of all the franchises growing up, I was always a Star Wars guy, a Marvel guy, a DC guy, a Jurassic Park guy. Back to the Future was up there, but I would say compared to things like Indiana Jones or these other big series, it was one of the more like middle tier things for me. But don't get me wrong, I love it. I think there's some of the best movies. I mean, when I say middle tier, I'm talking about some of the best movies ever made. But for you, Back to the Future is top notch, and I want to know what sparked that love, that interest. What was the first time that you remember realizing Back to the Future is more than a movie for me?
Yeah. So just before I kind of touch on Back to the Future, I want to kind of just touch on something you mentioned just before, if that's okay. So you mentioned before kind of about like the sense of like a community. I completely agree. So kind of like going back into the first half very quickly. So when I first started YouTube, and probably for about a year and a half, I didn't feel like I had any community. I felt like, people tune into my videos, great, but I felt like, didn't really have any collabs apart from with my friend Andy, and like that was it. And yeah, kind of like with Back to the Future and kind of like with the YouTube group that we're in and stuff. So when I watched Back to the Future, so interesting story. So I mentioned this on my kind of Back to the Fans series and stuff, but when I first ever watched Back to the Future, I was about maybe 14, 15 years old. And like at the time in school, I used to get bullied. I'm pretty sure like a lot of people did. I was a nerd then as well, but I was a bit chunkier as well, so I think that was maybe like an easier target. So yeah, I watched Back to the Future. So one day I remember it was like a Saturday, it was a weekend, so it was on Sky Movies at the time here in the UK, just channel I have, and I was watching it and I was like, so I watched the first 15 minutes because I remember I had to go out to the shops with my mum at the time, and I watched it and I was like, wow, like this is just so cool. And like he is this guy who loves his guitar, who has this friend Doc, whoever this guy is, however they met, etc. But like just this confidence that radiated from like Michael J. Fox's character, and I was like, wow, like I don't have that. And again, it took that 15 minutes, and I was sold on the movie straight away. So I think the following weekend or that weekend, when we went out to watch Back to the Future, I was watching it. We went out to the shops, and my mum actually bought me like the trilogy DVD. And you can imagine I put that sucker into the place, and I just watched the entire trilogy, and I was just blown away. Like I just thought, again, this guy, like in the movie as well, like Michael J. Fox, Mike McFly, does get picked on at the time by Biff. I mean, obviously, he kind of instigated himself, but kind of like he helps the underdog, George McFly, and kind of just standing up for these bullies and just having this confidence about him and just like this, I kind of glow, I guess, as well. Like I don't know how to describe it. But for me, for that, I was just like really just inspired by that, and I just felt like a really connection in that moment. And then I went back after a little bit of time. I was like, I really want to watch Back to the Future again. And then just kind of since then, I've just watched it like non-stop. I've been to see it in like live concert where an orchestra's playing the soundtrack while the film's playing, which is just phenomenal. If it ever comes to America, definitely check that out.
Yeah, that's always a really cool experience. Sorry to butt in real quick. I actually did that for a couple years back for The Nightmare Before Christmas, which was just one of my favorite movies of all time. And being able to watch that movie and have the orchestra playing the music alongside the film was really great. But anyway, continue with what you were saying.
No, I can imagine that one was really interesting with an orchestra.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've seen the in concert. I've seen the actual musical as well. And for me in Manchester, I was there opening night. I've got tickets to go to the London opening night as well.
Nice.
Just anything Back to the Future, man. It's just, I don't know. I made a connection with that film when I was about 14, 15 years old. 15 years later, I'm now 30 years old, and I'm still connected and still get goosebumps whenever I watch that movie. But the cool thing is, so if I watch Back to the Future 1, then say leave it a little bit of time, you might think, oh, you can go to 2 or 3. I've got to watch number 1 again, and then started from 2 or 3 in a row. Vice, I can't watch the trilogy.
I'm a similar way. After all these years, like I'm with Star Wars, I'm the same way. Like when I'm gonna start the franchise, I always want to start from the beginning, and I want to binge every single one of them chronologically. That I'm a chronological Star Wars fan. I have so much fun watching it that way. And so, yeah, I'm a similar way, man. And I love hearing your passion, your excitement for Back to the Future, because like I said, don't get me wrong when I say that for me, it was like a middle tier franchise, because in that middle tier of the top tier franchises, if that makes sense, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's always been a phenomenal set of movies for me. And those first two movies are some of the most iconic movies. Down here in Florida, I used to go to Universal Studios and ride the Back to the Future ride all the time before it turned into the Simpsons ride. Sometimes I missed the Back to the Future ride. Yeah, that's right. I think you mentioned that to me. And yeah, first of all, real quick, I'm assuming that Emma Kidd is somebody that you know, because don't get him started. On Back to the Future, I asked him almost 2 years ago, and he hasn't stopped talking about it since.
Yeah, it's my girlfriend.
Oh, nice. How's it going, Emma? Thank you for stopping by as we talk about what I'm sure you hear about on a daily basis. Really quickly, before we get too far, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
Well, sorry, man. I was just going to quickly say, in terms of you saying about admit to you, like, I respect that. Like, I talk to like every person I talk to, and they see the tattoo, they're like, "Oh, so you love Back to the Future?" So I always like to ask people, "Okay, have you seen the movie? What do you think of it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Whatever." So I always respect whatever anyone's opinion on it, because, like yourself, Star Wars could have been something when you were a kid. That's what you grew up watching, and that's how you have that fondness for it. Or again, it could be a movie like Indiana Jones, and again, just Harrison Ford character just inspires someone. So what I really just love is just talking to anyone who's got a passion for something, and they're like really devoted, whether it's to a film, whether it's to writing, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's one of the most exciting things for me, is like having people have their own thing. With you, it's Back to the Future. With me, it's Star Wars. I think it's somebody like the Big Rob Theory. His is like DC, specifically the Flash. He loves the Flash. And there's just, I always love seeing what people are genuinely into, these various things that they kind of cling on to your soul. They are part of who you are. It's hard to kind of separate. Like for me, Star Wars is just so, it's beyond, for me, like a lot of people just, whatever. Like I always kind of lean into the joke of like, it's just space wizards with laser swords and little talking robots, like that's the silly breakdown of it, right? Like it's all good and fun. But yeah, Star Wars, man, like you were saying, like I'm sure you get different opinions. Star Wars is like one of the most like beloved and hated franchises of all time, because there's just so many generations of it. Like imagine if Back to the Future had installments that like tried to follow the story, continue the story that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then nowadays Back to the Future came back and they're still continuing the same narrative. At some point, some of those would work for some of those would work wouldn't work for others. It was something like Star Wars that consistently has new movies, books, video games, comic books and TV shows that all intertwine and tell this connective tissue story that some people are gonna watch certain things and not watch other things, and then some things might get like kind of lost in the shuffle. It's not always gonna work for everybody. So yeah, trust me, when it comes to like a franchise that I love that not everybody does, Star Wars, as loved as it is, there's so many times I talk to people who just have nothing but hate for Star Wars, which is heartbreaking. But I do love hearing the passion that people have for other franchises that really cling to them. Because like for me, right, like you mentioned Marty McFly, for me it was like Luke Skywalker, like, and I think it was for a lot of people, right? And I definitely have different opinions from a lot of Luke Skywalker fans, but I think what everybody could connect to with his character and what I could connect to was this idea. Like I've always been a dreamer. I came out of high school and I was in a band. I wanted to. That's what I wanted to do. I was headstrong on that. I wasn't going to go to college. I went to college for a short period of time. I wasn't going to do anything. I thought I was going to be like freaking Steven Tyler in like 6 months, and reality hit, and that's not how things work. But then the band ended up falling apart, and I just kind of like felt discouraged and kind of just started working regular jobs. But I always have had this creative thing in me, and I've never wanted to work a conventional job. I've always had like this dreamer mentality, and I think I was always kind of able to cling on to that from Luke, this character who is always looking off into the stars, and almost to his detriment, right? Because in Empire Strikes Back, one of my favorite things is that whole introduction of Yoda, where he's just so impatient. He's so like he just wants to freaking meet Yoda, and this little green guy is not letting him meet Yoda. And then eventually he realizes that Yoda was just playing with him, and that he was indeed Yoda the whole time. And he's like, he's like, no, like, and the guy's like, Yoda's like, he's not ready. He's telling Obi-Wan he's not ready. He's like, I'm ready. I could do it. He like kind of like gets all like flustered, and then he bumps his head on top of the ceiling, and I've always kind of connected to that. This character that's always looking off to the stars is almost kind of looking to the future rather than in the moment, which is a huge thing that Yoda tells him, like, that his mind is never here in the moment. It's always where it could be, and that's something I've always been able to connect to as a character. Is just this character that's just sometimes to his detriment is just so hopeful for the future, so much living in a dream fantasy that he doesn't really like sometimes take in the moment, and that's something I've always connected to. So it's always interesting to see what people connect to that's different about the different franchises that they love. One thing I want to talk about really quickly before we move too far away from Back to the Future and all that stuff is Back to the Fans. For anybody who's watching this and doesn't know what it's all about, let us know what Back to the Fans is. It's a series of videos on your channel, and what inspired you to start that?
Yes, so Back to the Fans is a series that I created myself, and again, kind of like in this sense of community. So obviously, besides like the Facebook group that we're in and that you kind of made me a part of, like the Back to the Future community, I've just got such a love for the franchise, and I follow a couple of groups on like Back to the Future on Facebook, and I just thought, I want to talk to more people who actually love the movie, because as you mentioned, kind of for yourself in Star Wars, not everyone gets that vibe, or not everyone kind of connects the same way. But when I was in those groups, I thought, wow, I saw people who were showing off amazing collections, or they would say, tell us your favorite line from the movie, just get a really community, and just get everyone answering. You get some funny gifs in there, stuff like that. So I thought actually I want to focus my channel a bit more on something that I want to do. So I felt like, I don't know if you kind of agree on this one, but when I first kind of started YouTube again, watching Stuckman on FlickPick, I thought, right, I'm gonna have to make kind of these set type of reviews. Otherwise, people's not going to kind of tune into my channel, or they might not be as interested. And I don't get me wrong, I love talking about movies, but Back to the Future is kind of my main passion. So I thought, screw it, let's kind of get some more Back to the Future content in there. I thought, okay, what could I actually make Back to the Future wise? Could I just review all 3 movies? Could I review all the novels once I've read them? I thought, yeah, that's cool, but it's not really connecting with the community. It's just me babbling on about something, which I'm going to do, don't worry. But at the same time, I kind of just want to talk to other people. So I reached out onto, well, actually, a guy called Fernando, who is in the first ever Back to the Fans episode. He actually reached out to me and he said, like, oh, I actually saw you at the musical in Manchester because he's from Spain. And he was like, oh, yeah, like he saw that I was like such a super fan. So I got talking to him a little bit and I was like, okay, so what's your kind of like Back to the Future collection like? And he's like, well, I've got a collection where I live in Spain. I've got a collection at my girlfriend's house in England. I've got one in America. And I was like, shit, I don't even have that much stuff. And I just got talking to him and I was like, well, look, I'm creating a series. So my best friend Luke and his girlfriend actually came up with the idea of Back to the Fans series, and my girlfriend Emma helped as well because I didn't know what to call it. And I got talking to him, and he's just like, "Yeah, look," I was like, "I've got this idea. I'll ask a couple of questions. I'll edit your part into the video. We'll just make like an interview as such." And it just did really well. The video got like a lot of support. Fernando knew a lot of people. He's a part of like 27 Back to the Future groups or something ridiculous like that. And I just got a lot of support, and I actually really, really enjoyed. Kind of probably for one of the first times in again started nearly 3 years ago. Apart from the collabs and stuff, of course, and odd reviews, but I actually just really enjoyed sitting down and talking to another Back to the Future fan, and it just inspired me kind of to just talk to more people that's like that and like myself who just appreciates the series so much because per Emma, I'll go over and we'll talk about Back to the Future. She loves it as well, but like I feel like I can't connect as such when it comes to like my collection and stuff like that, which she respects, which is cool. So yeah, just like it's just so fun getting to talk to other fans and just other people who's got like other collections and just getting to know them. So I've also been talking to like a group in Argentina, which I would have never thought in my life to be talking to a group of Argentina Back to the Future fans. So yeah, 5 episodes so far in at the moment, and yeah, really, really cool, man.
That's awesome, man. Like that's what it's all about, right? As a fandom is this it should be this sense of community, and that ability to connect with so many people from different places in the world is really what's so exciting about these various fandoms. For me with Star Wars, one of my greatest memories and things that I participate in is Star Wars Celebration. It's sometimes yearly, sometimes not yearly, but I haven't gone to all of them. I've been to like 5 or 6 of them. And there's been quite a few of them, but some of them have been in Europe, and some of them have been in Japan, and some of them have been in, some other places, and that I haven't been able to go to. But I've been to quite a few of them, and it's been incredible experiences because, sure, there's the actors and the actresses that you can meet and get the autographs and the photos, which I have met tons of Star Wars actors, which is I've thought about making a video on that. I have to find in like old devices like pictures from when I met some of these people that I don't really have easy access to anymore. But yeah, man, one of the greatest things about those events is meeting people. It's the amount of people and friends that I have on social media today that we look forward to seeing each other at the next celebration. I can specifically remember this last one where I met, like, just literally just sitting in line for like the Star Wars Celebration store. Met these individuals who I have gone on to like create great friendships with in the last like couple years. There was supposed to be a Star Wars Celebration this past year, but due to COVID, they moved it to 2022. They just transferred over the tickets. It's in Anaheim, California. Can't wait to go. But yeah, a 4-day solely Star Wars centric event that does just panels, and all the actors and the people are there, and like the big names, and they announce things and they show things to the fans. At the last one I was able to go to, I met so many people, and these people have gone on to become great friends in the last couple of years, just since the last one. And that's not even counting the friends that I made at the celebration before that I've also continued to grow friendships with. I can remember there was a group of friends that we were waiting to see, and we knew they were getting there later on a specific day. They had arrived. We hadn't heard from them yet, but then it just so happened that we were going down the escalator as they were coming up the escalator, and we all saw each other, and it was just this great moment. And then like from there on, like we spent the entire convention together. Same with this one guy that we met named Jordan, a friend of mine that's been a great friend in the last 2 years, that we met in line for one of the stores and ended up spending the entirety of celebration with him, just like a random guy that we met. And I think that's kind of the beauty of the fandom is I think sometimes it seems like what you see online is the fandom. You know what I mean? Like the people raging like Jar Jar Binks, Ray Skywalker. Like I get it. Like there's things that don't work. The franchise isn't perfect. Star Wars has never been about perfection for me. It's really not what it's about. I'm sure with Back to the Future, you hear people that nitpick things. It's like it's not. It doesn't remove what works. You know what I mean? And so I think sometimes it can blind people to thinking that that's what Star Wars fans are like. But when you go to an event like this with people who are actually willing to spend multi-$100s on tickets to go and celebrate this franchise, it's usually just people who are there to love it, to be a part of the community, and it's such a great thing. So yeah, man, that's super awesome. Have you ever gone to like a Back to the Future con? Is that something? By the way, I'm gonna run and grab a paper towel because my allergies are killing me. But have you ever been to like a Back to the Future like convention, like a centric one like that, or something that like is at least very much features Back to the Future?
No, I've never been to a Back to the Future specific Comic-Con. I don't know if they even exist. I do know that it's like a DeLorean convention, sometimes in the UK, sometimes in America. So I'd love to go to one of those in the future. I'd say the closest thing I've been to a Back to the Future convention is London Comic Con. So in 2015, it was like the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future. So they had like Christopher Lloyd there, Leah Thompson, Harry Walters Jr., Don Fullerlove, James Tolkien, Michael J. Fox was there, Claudia Wells. So I would say that was kind of the closest thing I've been to a Back to the Future convention where, again, man, probably, you could relate in terms of like Star Wars celebrations and stuff. You just get fans, in the queues and you just talk to fans while you're waiting. And yeah, I mean, just it's such an amazing experience. At least then, I saw the turnouts for people like Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Claudia Wells, etc. And it's just you just don't realize how many fans there is until you're actually like there in the moment. And Star Wars Celebration, man, I would love to go to one, but I've never really. The only time I've ever seen them has been like America. I've missed them in the past and stuff.
Yeah, they have primarily been in America. Which I guess makes sense. In Star Wars is primarily a American franchise, which that I'm sure I almost have to imagine that there's Back to the Future conventions that are here because of the fact that it's an American film. But they have done European Star Wars celebrations, and yeah, man, every celebration. I meet people from all over the globe, people from everywhere, and these people who come up with these incredible costumes and like they recreate these costumes from the movies that are just so amazing, man. It's like anybody, especially in the 501st, like I talk to these guys, you walk up to these groups of guys that are like completely decked out in like clone trooper prequel era armor with like the battle damage, like as if they got shot by the blasters with the burn marks and the like the paint that's kind of scuffed up to kind of look like it's been worn.
That's cool.
And then you talk to them and they have like the lights in the eyes or they have like the voice modulator. And it's just like, man, these guys put so much work into it. Or the dudes walking around on stilts that are in Wampa costumes, the big white creatures from Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, it's just so great to see the community come together and do stuff that's like that and just be able to have a good time. Before we get too far away from this, because I've been terrible about this during our spoiler discussions for various things, because it's been mainly about the conversation. We have gotten a bunch of comments, so I do want to make a reference to the comments that we've been getting this whole time, so that it doesn't feel like I'm avoiding everybody. First comment we got was, "Good morning, guys," from JP Sorry Reviews. What's going on, my friend? Now we got one review in here saying, "Yo," he said, "finally able to make it to another one of these. So thank you for stopping by. We appreciate it."
Yeah.
We got Dave, Interpreting the Stars, saying, "What's up? How's it going, man?" Let's see. Cinematic Tendency is in here saying, "Morning, first live session during the day." Correct? Yes, indeed. This is the first ever. Mike is the first ever, and a big part of that for me is mainly because I usually work and get off later in the day. My fiance is still sleeping, so I figured the time was good. It's only 10:30 in the morning here. We went to bed around like 3 a.m. And for Mike, it's what, like almost 4 over there?
Pretty much nearly 4 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, so I figured, all right, cool. So it's not so morning for Mike. He's already almost done with his day, pretty far into it. We got, let's see. Interpreting the Stars saying, "Back to the Future has the best narrative structure. I always use it as my reference in my deconstructing the narrative thing." Yeah, so for anybody who's never seen before. Interpreting the Star has a series of videos called Deconstructing the Narrative, I believe is what it's called, and he just breaks down the narrative of various films. So that's cool to know that Back to the Future kind of is that for him. I guess I'll before we continue with the comments, what do you think about the narrative structure? Would you agree that it is the perfect narrative structure, essentially?
Yes and no. So overall, I mean, just the tone of the film, the messages it speaks about, again, about confidence, about family, sticking up for yourself and not being, pushover and stuff like that. It's fantastic in terms of the messages it wants to send. I mean, I see a lot of theories online about like time jumps and the space-time continuum being messed up, or they do plot holes in the films and stuff like that. So I guess in that regard, maybe no. But for me, I just take the film for what it is, and you're just never bored by it in terms of like the narrative. They always keep it something interesting going on, or you're like, okay, so how does this piece of number one fit into number two, or number two and number three, or number three into number one, etc. Especially in number two, where there's like two Martys, and especially at the enchantment under the sea dance and stuff like that. It's just again, the narrative is just really cool, and I really actually like the fact that Dave uses that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that he did that either, which I think is pretty cool because I mean it is just a good movie, like you said. It's just entertaining. Like it's not boring while you're watching it. And I think sometimes even as somebody who has now kind of made it a thing about critiquing film, I'm sure you feel the same way. There comes a point where it's like, are you just critiquing or are you nitpicking? There's always going to be like little flaws, little things that maybe don't work 100% in movies. And yeah, I think Back to the Future does a good job of telling a great story from beginning to end with arcs for the characters that takes you, like, leaves you in a very different place than where you started. You know what I mean? Which, like, I think that's the best thing you can ask for in a movie. Is the worst thing I've always said on my channel. The worst thing a movie can ever be is boring, and thankfully, Back to the Future is far from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess if you want, sorry, just very quickly. I guess if you want to nitpick Back to the Future. If you ever watch the Blu-ray transfer, the part where the DeLorean zooms off and you get this shot of like Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd going around like that, the fire that's on the path of the road in time is actually on like Mark McFly's leg. So you can really nitpick, being like, oh well, surely his pants would be on fire.
Yeah, there's always stuff like that, right? Like little things that you can pick out in the background that you're like, yeah, okay, like look at that. Like I always think about with Star Wars. Whenever anybody complains too much and they treat like A New Hope as like the pinnacle of cinematic, like even though it's what it did for cinema at the time it's undoubtable, like incredible. Like you just know it's still a fantastic film. What George Lucas set up in that first movie for what the franchise would be all these years later, as far as the tone, the music, the feel, the vibe, the sound effects, like he nailed it right out of the gate. And as perfect as the film is, you still have that stormtrooper who's walking through the doorway and bangs his head on the on the doorway. So like that wasn't done on purpose. And the sound effect is in there. Like if you watch the current cut of the film that's on Disney Plus, that's what you're gonna watch. That's what you're gonna see that scene, dun, dun, clunk, right into the doorway. And it's just like
it fits perfectly.
Yeah, it fits so good, and it's just part of the fun of Star Wars. It's never been about perfection. So when people watch the new stuff and they're like, well, actually, this one thing didn't have things correct in that one moment. And if you look in the back, you'll see that there's something wrong. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up and just enjoy just enjoy the Force music and just have good a time. Like, don't pick on the little things. It's just, you'll never enjoy anything. Let me see. We got some more comments in here. Worst Reviews says, I'm a huge Back to the Future fan too. Also saying that it was one of the first movies he ever watched on VHS as well. And said that he thinks it's the best movie of the 80s. Better than Empire Strikes Back? No way!
Nah, both of them's got their own histories.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just being a dickhead.
But I like that. It's one of his favorite movies.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think it's definitely one of the best movies of the 80s, undoubtedly. Like when you in the 80s, I spent a lot of 2020 rewatching movies, which is why a majority of my reviews last year were older movies. And I watched a lot of 80s. And now a lot of 80s horror specifically, which a lot of that was ass. but a lot of really good movies as well from the 80s. And I actually haven't reviewed the Back to the Future movies yet on my channel, but you can all rest assured that Mike will be my guest in all three of those. Let's see. He also said that, which is saying a lot. So he also recognizes that the 80s is a jam-packed decade for film. It's unlike anything else. Just everything from the feel, the vibe, the attire, the acting. There was something specific about the filmmaking from that time that just has not been able to be replicated, even when they try to make things that are like supposed to be almost nostalgia bait. You know what I mean? That were supposed to be like very much tied to that. We got Cinematic also saying Sriracha is good, but nothing on Valentina hot sauce. Honestly, I don't think. And I don't even think about it. I don't think that it's actually Sriracha. I think it might be Tabasco. I don't know. It's my fiance's. I don't really use it.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I can't tell. I can't. The label's the other direction.
I'm not a fan of hot food, man, or sauce, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I used to be when I was younger, man. And I think I just tore my butthole up way too much, like growing up, and like now I just can't handle the heat, bro. Like anytime I have something too spicy, it's just like I just don't feel right. And also when I was younger, I used to like to eat like hot wings, and I used to like to eat them like I used to like to eat them and kind of like sit there and be sweating. I don't know about you. I don't like sweating when I'm eating anymore. Like not in any. There's nothing enjoyable about that. Like there was something kind of fun to it when I was younger. Like I want to go to a restaurant and get the hottest wings and just have my face be on fire. Now, screw that. Worst review says that he puts it at number 3 of his favorite movies of all time. He says, I think number 3. Would you say Back to the Future is number 1?
Yeah. Not just because of a bias. It's a film that you can go back and rewatch so many times, and it just doesn't get boring. Like you can quote the lines, you can, see this movie for what it is. But it's just kind of like for yourself, like Star Wars. If you watched, say, A New Hope, you kind of be like, right, I want to go watch the rest of that original trilogy now. And I just feel like Back to the Future does the same thing, and it still holds up 35, 36 years later. It's just, yeah, man, definitely number 1. Yeah.
So I gotta put you right on the spot right now. What is your definitive Back to the Future ranking?
Okay, so this might be a bit controversial. So number 1, always the best. Then it's number 3, and then number 2.
See, I would say I'm similar, except I would say release order for me. 1, 2, 3 in that order, best to worst. All enjoy them all, but I'm curious. Like you said, it's controversial. So why do you like the third one more than the second one?
So I just feel like with the third one, I respect it for like a bit more originality that it had. So number 1, defined the series. Of course, obviously it set this whole space-time continuum. But I felt like sometimes in number 2, it was a bit like a copy and paste job. Like, the skateboard scene, and you've got like the hoverboard scene, and then you got the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, which is in there yet again. And don't get me wrong, they do like a fun take on it, and it's a fantastic movie. Definitely the part about like Biff being like this badass and owning the casinos, the highlight of that film. But I guess with like number 3, again, it just went for something different. They went for like a Western theme, which I love Westerns. My dad kind of inspired that. And just the fact that again it had like a bit of a storyline. It introduced like a love interest for Doc, which I always thought watching the first time around, is that Doc ever going to settle down with anyone? We'd never see him kind of with anyone. And I don't know, it's kind of just like it actually rewrote a bit of history about Clara's girlfriend at the time was supposed to die in that like off the cliff with the horses or the train. I can't remember what it was, or the cart, but like it saves it. And I don't know, I just respected it a lot more for its originality than number 2, because I felt like number 2, although it's a fantastic film, it's just a bit more of a copy paste of the first one.
Yeah, I can totally see what you're saying. A lot of films have did that specifically in that time. I think another good example is like Ghostbusters, where like Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2 are very similar. Like, they have their differences that make them their own movie. They're both classics in their own right. But they're both very, very similar movies. So I can see what you're saying there. I also want to make reference real quick to Dave from Interpreting the Stars laughing at me calling it middle tier of the top tier, which I figured was also strange when it came out of my mouth. Worst reviews also said Back to the Future 2 is also in my top 10 favorite movies ever. And Interpreting the Stars says that George of the Jungle is also fantastic. If you saw my review for it recently, listen, let me say something about George of the Jungle really quickly. growing up, I loved the movie. Undoubtedly, it was such a great time to watch it as a kid. I feel like I watched it a million times, and so going back and revisiting it when I initially did the review over on Interpreting the Stars channel, which now I have one on my channel with the Big Rob Theory.
Yeah,
I was excited. I was looking forward to rewatching it. I rewatched it with my fiance. We both loved it. Movie opens up. You got the George of the Jungle. Hope I don't get copywritten for that. But you have the George of the Jungle song right at the gate, and it's super nostalgic. Right out of the gate, I'm watching the animated intro, and I I was kind of like shot back in my seat, kind of with just nostalgia just blasting me in the chest, and it was exciting. I was really into to watching the movie, and the actors look great. Brendan Fraser looks great, but as you're watching it, like today, I'm 27, I'm about to be 28, and in 2021, I'm just like, yeah, this movie just isn't for me anymore. Like, this isn't one of those childhood movies that I can look back on, like The Lion King or like really any of the Disney movies I grew up with, and say like, this is still a good movie with a story that has a beginning, middle, and end, and arcs. And George of the Jungle is kind of just aimless. There's not much going on there. Like, it's just like, it's got the funny like moments, you know what I mean? Like him spinning the lion over his head and like throwing in all that kind of stuff. That's like, I remembered as a kid, and I remembered the story, but rewatching it, I was like, there really isn't much to the story. The story is like, it's so hollow. It's a hollow movie. And Brendan Fraser was kind of cringe in the movie. He's kind of cringe. I can't lie. He's just a little bit cringe. Like the way he's like, George can no go there. And he's talking like that. Like he's like, speaking with like an American accent, trying to be a monkey man. Like he's not doing like, like if you've seen the 1999 like Disney Tarzan film, he sounds like an ape man. He sounds like somebody who doesn't know how to speak English. So there's that great moment where like he's trying to like talk to Jane and trying to figure out the names, and he's not really understanding, and he's saying the wrong things, and like it's really, that scene works because of the way he speaks. And with George's Jungle, it's supposed to be a sillier parody version of it, but sitting through an hour and a half of Brendan Fraser and his bad ape man voice, but with an American accent, it just does not work for me. Let's see. Worst reviews also says Back to the Future is one of those rare series that hasn't gotten any reboots or sequels. I don't know if I'd want any. I know I wouldn't want any. How would you feel today if they announced a sequel? Let me ask you this. If they were to announce a new movie for Back to the Future, would you prefer it be a reboot, new Marty McFly, new Doc Brown, or would you prefer it to be a sequel where you maybe have these actors make very brief cameos? Because I just saw Nobody that had Christopher Lloyd in it, and so he could still put on a good performance. Would you want to see Doc Brown in a future installment, or maybe Doc Brown with a new kid that's not Marty McFly? Obviously, because it couldn't be a kid, Marty McFly, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. The short answer, I definitely don't want another Back to the Future movie. I just think like, again, for like the 80s timepiece, it just works so well. And having the fella like nowadays, they've just got all this like new technology, the agent, whatever they do, it just wouldn't have the same feel as the first three. But at the same time, if they were to announce a new Back to the Future movie, I would definitely like Christopher Lloyd to reprise his role as Doc Brown. He can do it in a heartbeat, no question about it. I recently just got done watching Expedition Back to the Future, which is like a mini series. It's been on Discovery in America. So I'd review that on my channel. And he still plays like Doc Brown now. He's fantastic. So he hasn't lost it. But if they were to do a new movie, I would like it where Michael J. Fox is still in it, but they actually have him with Parkinson's. They actually like diagnose that, whether they have him like, in his house or in a wheelchair, whatever setting they want to put him in, acknowledge that he's got Parkinson's. Then maybe have his son actually have to like fix the space-time continuum with Doc. Now, I saw a deep fake a while ago with Tom Holland as Marty McFly, and I had like Robert Downey Jr. as Doc. It was actually awesome. But I think like Tom Holland, for example, if they've had him as like Marty McFly's son, and like, I don't know, something happened where, I don't know, it caused a disruption to the original first three movies. Like, I think that would be a cool idea to say like have Doc and someone else as like a Marty, but don't dress him with like a life preserver, for example, because it's just copying Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
And by all means, they could have like a life preserver hanging up in like a cafe as like a nod to Michael J. Fox, or in his house being like, "Oh, son, I used to wear this back in the 80s," whatever. But yeah, I just think like if they were to do one today, definitely Christopher Lloyd as Doc, and definitely like someone good to be cast as like Marty's son, but have Michael J. Fox in there, where it says, like, "Look, Doc, with Parkinson's, I can't travel back in time. I'm not as like flexible as I used to be, or because he's always run about somewhere. Michael J. Fox, he's known for that in like all of his movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if they were to do it, it could be a cool take on it. But personally, no. I mean, I know the directors have actually gone on record and said, like, over their dead bodies, that they'd actually make another Back to the Future movie, which is fantastic. But I have a feeling as soon as they pop it as such, the studios will be like, right, reboot time.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting if we ever do end up getting one of those. And it's weird because, like, I was thinking about, like, as you were talking about like what a sequel could be, I thought to myself, yeah, like, as much, and I would love to see Michael J. Fox come back, even if they did acknowledge like the Parkinson's. But then it's also this thing is like, man, I can already imagine people having like the Luke Skywalker syndrome of like, well, I don't want to see Marty McFly as Parkinson's. Now I know when I watch the original movie that this is where he's going to end up as like a sad old man. It's like, for them, that part of the fan group wouldn't be very pleased. I don't think anybody really would be. Like, that's why I think the overall vibe is nobody really wants another one of these because we just don't need it. But then it also makes me think, if they did make one today, they'd have to make it in the fake futuristic future that we saw in the original films. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So it would have to be like what the cheesy 80s future that we saw in a lot of movies. You know what I mean? Like that kind of like very over the top, what they thought the world would look like years later. Or at least what they imagined. And so, yeah, it would be interesting, though, to see a Back to the Future movie that takes place in modern time, but still having to abide by the rules of the future set up in those past films. That would be interesting. I see we also have a couple comments in here real quick. I don't want to get too far away from these because, I've been terrible about responding to them during our spoiler discussions. We see Interpreting Star says, I still think it's crazy somebody pirated his video and played it off like it was their own channel. What are you referring to? I'm confused.
Oh, yeah. The mine, not long ago.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You were talking about that earlier. For a second, I was like, okay. I have seen that happen to a lot of channels, like where people have done that, and like the thumbnail or whatever, it's like one video, and maybe the other video was somebody else's channel. It's like, what did they kind of expect from that? But go ahead. What were you going to say about that?
No, just for, I guess, anyone that doesn't know. So I've recently been doing like the Expedition Back to the Future reviews, because it's like 4 episodes I reviewed each one. And I went to go search for it because in the UK we haven't got it out yet. So luckily, an awesome guy called Paul managed to kind of like get them to me as such. And yeah, I just thought, I'll type in like episode 3 because that's what I was going to review next. And some guy had put like my first episode on his channel with the same thumbnail, and I was like, what? I was like, what the hell? I was like, what's this? So I reached out to the Back to the Future community and I was like, look, does anyone know this channel or know who runs it so I can get in touch and be like, look, like what's going on? So to be fair though, I will say that the guy was super responsive when I got in touch with him. He said, look, sorry man, I just thought it was great content. I was like, okay, look, fair enough. But I was like, at least ask me first if you're going to do something like that. But yeah, it got taken down and stuff. But I say the guy was, cool
weird,
about
man.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely a weird thing for somebody to do. Like, anytime I've seen people do that, like, it's one thing to like take like, I don't know, you ever seen like the compilations of like every funny moment on this channel, where like somebody like cut out like different funny bits from like a popular channel, like every time that this movie reviewer hated a movie or something. That's one thing, right? Like, it's almost flattering, but like to take like your whole video and upload it as like their own, that's definitely strange. Definitely strange. I would have been like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, I can imagine that's how you felt. I got Interpreting the Stars also saying there's novels, which I wasn't aware of, but I'm not surprised. As a Star Wars fan who there's so many novels for Star Wars, and I just learned that most franchises, video game franchises like Halo, has comic like novels, and like Gears of War has novels, and so I can only imagine that Back to the Future also has novels. Are the novels considered canon, or is it kind of viewed more loosely as kind of like an alternative timeline, more of like a head canon kind of thing?
Well, I've only read a couple of them, but from people that I've talked to, again, like the community, I think they're kind of like an alternate. So they say that like, sometimes that the comics focus on the prequels of the actual trilogy and also a sequel to it. So like an
Gotcha.
actual on the reality where like Biff's more in control again, or Doc's got like grandkids, or whatever, like Jules and Vern we see in number 3. Again, I haven't read the more, so I can't comment a lot on that. But yeah, it actually does prequel and sequel, so I'll get them at some point.
Oh, interesting. Oh, cool. It's pretty cool. Interpreting the Stars also says COVID. Anthony has COVID. He says that's no allergies. That's no allergies. Dude, I wish I could say that it was COVID. Honestly, no, I'm just kidding. Allergies are really bad for me here, and Florida just has this season. There's so many. Anybody who's been to Florida, it's so tree heavy. There's a lot of pollen in this area. There's a lot of nature. You know what I mean? That's why we have gators and all these crazy animals that live here. So yeah, like you just come outside and there's constantly different plants and trees everywhere. And then right now we're kind of in the middle of like an allergy season, but sadly for me, year round is kind of allergy season for me. So I took my Zyrtec right as we started this. I usually take my Zyrtec the second I wake up, which is my allergy medicine. For anybody who doesn't know what Zyrtec is. I usually take it as soon as I wake up. And today I go, I'm feeling pretty good. Like maybe I don't need it. And then as soon as we started this, I started feeling like it's like a tickle in my nose and a little sniffling. I'm like, great. So now it's starting to feel a little bit better. Like it's kicking in now that we're an hour into this. But at first I was struggling. There was a couple times I was talking to you and like I muted my mic as you were talking. I'm over here just trying to like suck in my snot, which was great. We also got, let's see. Worst review says everybody in the chat needs to wear a mask. Interpreting the Star says that's right, I have mine on. Worst review says I personally never met anyone who has disliked Back to the Future. Definitely a testament to it. I don't really know that I've met anybody who's like specifically said that, but I have to imagine as a long time Back to the Future fan, have there been those people that you've met that like they find out you're a huge Back to the Future fan and they're just like, yeah, no, don't like those movies?
Yeah, there's been like the odd one or two times I've spoken to someone because they see the tattoo and I asked them to, I'm like, okay, so like, have you seen Back to the Future? What's your thoughts on it? And they might be like, yeah, I was bored by the movies, and I'm a bit like, I don't know how, but okay. But no, again, it's their own opinions, and I'm just like, again, it's one of those things like as we mentioned before about like the community and yourself with Star Wars. Like when again someone like that too might say, right, I don't like the movies. It's just like, oh, okay, well, great discussion. See you later.
Yeah.
And you just can't talk about it more. You can't be like, okay, so what would you know the trilogy do you enjoy the most, etc. So yeah, that's why it's just like that community is just so important to have as well, and just find someone who likes it as well.
For sure. No, absolutely, man. And it's that's for me with film overall. It's like I never expect, for instance, like one of my favorite things that I've really grown with when it comes to this channel is just being super cool with people's different opinions. I used to be somebody who like would be a little bit more vocal, like, what, you didn't like that movie? Even if I wasn't trying to like berate you about it, I would just kind of be reactive about it. Whereas now I think the channel has really helped me out because there's so many times I do send a movie that I really love to somebody to do a collab and they don't like it. I'm sure there'll be a day at some point that I send you something that I really like and you just aren't going to like it. It's just going to happen. It's happened with Blacktastic. It's happened with Robert. It's happened with Dave. It's happened with Jacob. It's happened with Rashad. The one that really stands out in my mind immediately is what's it called? When I sent Rashad Holes, the Disney movie with Shia LaBeouf. I love that movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah, Rashad hated it, man. I don't know if you've seen that review, but Rashad hated it. He didn't like it at all. Like he literally ended it by saying, "Don't send me anything like this again." Like I was so surprised because I love the movie so much, and that's one of my favorite things about doing this channel is like, obviously he was joking, but like it's just he didn't like it, and so it's just one of those things for me where it's always kind of more interesting more than anything to be able to talk to people and see what works for them, what doesn't work, as long as it's all in good fun and respectful, of course. You don't want to deal with somebody who's just an a-hole. But let's see right here. We have some more comments. Worst review saying Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, my favorite Star Wars movie. Yeah, good point. Yeah, so I don't know. Is Back to the Future still your favorite movie from the 80s? We'll see. Interpreting the Star says Empire is the best movie from the 80s. Amen, amen, amen. He also said, I tore my butthole up. Anthony 2021. The Big Rob Theory stopped by just to say that he's got to head into work, but he wanted to stay.
What's up?
How's it going, man? And then he also said, love you, homies. Love you too, bro. I hope all is well on your end. Let's see. Worst reviews. No, it's number 4 for me. I put Empire at number 3. I don't remember what he said number 4 was, but we'll find out, I'm sure. Worst review says, so Empire is reigning king of the 80s. Amen, amen. Hold on. So your girlfriend said you were wrong for putting 3-second Michael. What is that? Hold on, I'm confused.
Oh, I think Back to the Future, like the rankings.
The what? Oh, the rankings. Oh, I see. Oh, that's right. 3 seconds. I see what you're saying. Look at me being. For a second, I was thinking 3 seconds in time. I was like, did something happen with 3 seconds of time with Michael? Yeah, no. So I'm assuming that Emma. Oh, look, we are interpreting the stars responding to that, saying that he agrees with Emma, and that the third is the worst, still good. So I'm assuming that Emma also believes that kind of in the 1, 2, 3 is that kind of her favorites.
I believe so. Or number 2 is her favorite. I think actually might be number 2 her favorite. I mean, I can get why people hate number 3 as such, because it does deviate from like the formula, and it's just completely like a contrast to the original 2. But again, like I said, like in my spare time when like writing books and just watching a movie, like I love original creative ideas. Don't get me wrong, like a copy and paste, like for example, like Force Awakens copied a bit of like A New Hope. I still love that movie, Force Awakens, but like again, I appreciate like it's just a different take. Like Empire Strikes Back, obviously, is that ultimate kind of movie as such for some Star Wars fans. But again, I just have a respect for them simply because of just my creative side. I just love being creative. I love just something that takes a risk. Well, I felt like Back to the Future 3 did, although it was shot back to back with number 2. I just felt like it didn't connect a lot with number 2. Besides, obviously, Doc going back to like 1885, it just did its own thing to get to 1985, and I just really respect that a lot.
For sure, no, I definitely understand why you went that route for sure, because I think when you look back at a long-lasting franchise, it is those installments that are different, that stand out, that very much have their own identity. That really stand out. I said Ghostbusters earlier as an example, especially of a movie in the 80s that did like the whole first and second movie very similar with slight variations. And then, we got the female Ghostbusters movie, which was, again, almost a recreation of the first 2 movies. So you have 3 Ghostbusters movies that are very similar. And now for the first time, it seems like with Ghostbusters Afterlife, this upcoming, like supposed to be a sequel to the original 2, that one looks like it's going to be the first Ghostbusters movie in years to be wholly original, or at least a lot more so. So I can totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that actually the other day about like the mini Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
And again, like it's just said, like it looks like it's going to be something original straight off the bat. And I like that it didn't just be like, oh, okay, well let's just copy number 1 formula and have like Venkman whatever back again and just against Marshmallow Man, stay puffed, whatever.
Exactly. Like they could have done the cookie cutter thing, which is what they did with the Ghostbusters female reboot one, which is just doing a modern day version of a very similar story. Whereas I think it's always better to kind of be able to do something different. Like now, you mentioned The Force Awakens. I think that movie does such a great job of doing a good job of being its own movie, setting things up, being different enough. People say that it's it is similar to A New Hope, no doubt. Like there is bone structure there of what the storyline for A New Hope is, but it does enough different to really make it its own individual movie. I see we have some more comments in here real quick. Worst review saying that he has Back to the Future 2 in his top 10 films of all time, but that number 3 is nowhere to be seen. How does that make you feel?
Fair play to the guy. He has his own likes of films, but definitely number 3 is better too.
Interpreting the Stars responding to George of the Jungle saying it's not cringe. It is. Anybody who's seen George of the Jungle, comment your thoughts on George, because it is cringe master.
Man, I remember,
go ahead.
I was just going to quickly say, I remember watching George of the Jungle when I was back in school, and I mean that was like 15, 14 years ago. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the theme song as you mentioned, but apart from that, nah. Definitely
Yeah, it's rough. It's a rough rewatch, man. I wanted to love it. Don't get me wrong. If anybody's been watching my channel, I'm a fairly positive movie reviewer. I don't really do rants often. I try to like praise what works and what doesn't work in a movie. You know, if you just saw my review for Death Note that I just dropped with Blacktastic, though I
not.
didn't love the film, I tried my best to talk about what I felt really worked for the premise of the movie. And, you know, it's just interesting to always see what kind of like sticks with you and what doesn't. And it's cool to know that Interpreting the Stars doesn't find it cringe. You know, that it works for him on that fun, cheesy live action cartoon level. Because there's other movies that have that same kind of vibe that work for me a lot better, whereas that one just doesn't. Blacktastic saying that he's in the house, my dudes. What's going on, man? Thank you for stopping by. Let me see if we have any more comments. Oh, snap. I was trying to like scroll down and I just realized that there was a pretty good amount of comments.
Cool.
Q Review saying, "What's up, guys? Thanks for stopping by, man. I like the new thumbnail there, Q." Mr. Blue saying hi there, saying that it's good to see you live again. Q saying that he's working while watching the stream. Appreciate that. Anybody who doesn't know, Q Reviews,
thanks, man.
Badass CG artist, just talent on display at all times. Let's see. Mr. Blue says the 80s were full of great films. Empire Strikes Back was the movie that kickstarted that decade. It definitely was, and still was the best one. Mr. Blue says, I still wonder why Star Wars fans say Empire is the best out of all the Star Wars movies. I was going to say this right here. Interpreting the Stars says because it is. I think it's going to depend really what you're looking for, right? Because I actually recently introduced a friend of mine, a coworker of mine, who grew up in Puerto Rico, had never seen the Star Wars movies, and recently, maybe within the last year and a half, watched them all. And the one he loved them all, had a great time with the whole series. And the one that he clinged to the most was Revenge of the Sith. When I was a kid, The Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith were two of my favorite Star Wars movies. I would have put them at the very top. And Revenge of the Sith is still very high. And I still love The Phantom Menace. I don't care what anybody has to say. Jar Jar Binks and all. And yeah, you know, I think with Empire, it just does such a great job of playing off of that story set up in A New Hope. It's an exciting adventure. The character work done there, the expansion of their narrative, the connection between Han and Leia that begins to blossom. You know, there's so many questions that are answered while also things are still being kind of are still being asked. There's so much going on. There's the whole reveal of Vader being Luke's father at the end, and that epic battle, the cinematography, the costume design, the set design, the music, the score, everything about the way the film looks, plays out, the effects, the performances. It's all so believable. When you're watching that movie, you buy it 100%. The movie came out right there at the beginning of the 80s, and it's just still to this day one of the most beautiful looking and just exciting films to ever watch. It doesn't feel dated. There are elements you can nitpick here and there, but the costume design, again, the score, these moments, iconic improvised lines like "I love you, I know." It's just, there's so much about Empire Strikes Back that on an overall level is without a doubt got to be, if it's not your favorite Star Wars movie, if it's not in your top three, I don't know what you're looking for in Star Wars, but overall, I just love that movie so much. See that Mr. Blue says, I still like Return of the Jedi despite the small controversy. What controversy are you referring to? Because I love Return of the Jedi so much. Interpreting the Stars says, Return of the Jedi has those dang Ewoks that I wish Empire would have exterminated. Bro, I love the Ewoks. Wicket. Oh, no, don't get me started on the Ewoks. I'm going to be reviewing the Ewok movies very soon. I meant to do it before they hit Disney Plus, because now they're on Disney Plus and everybody's watching them. I have them on DVD. I meant to review them forever ago, but I haven't. But I'm going to. Anybody who hasn't seen those are terrible movies. But those, whenever somebody complains about like The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, I'm like, you obviously have not seen the Ewok films. Those are the worst Star Wars movies ever made. If you've never seen them, they're on Disney Plus right now as part of the Vintage Collection. They just added in a bunch of old school Star Wars stuff, which is great. I did a review of the Clone Wars, the original Clone Wars 2D series done by Gendy Taraskovsky, I believe is his name, who did Samurai Jack. So if anybody is a fan of Samurai Jack, the Star Wars Clone Wars series that came out in the early 2000s is a Samurai Jack version of Star Wars, essentially. Same art style, and it's really, really cool. Very action heavy, a lot of fun to watch. But the Ewoks are great, and I've met Warwick Davis, who played Wicket a million times, and he's the nicest guy. I have so much love in my heart for Wicket, and my fiance is really into the cute characters from Star Wars. So, like, she really connects with when Wicket's on screen with Leia and the Porgs and all that kind of stuff. So, the Ewoks hold a very special place in my heart. Are you an Ewok fan, Mike?
Yeah, I like them. I mean, maybe a bit controversial, but I also like Jar Jar Binks. I don't mind them. I think it's because, so kind of touching on Star Wars, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but the first ever Star Wars film I had seen was Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
So, I mean, growing up in my teenage years and stuff like that, I didn't ever kind of get introduced into Star Wars. So when the Phantom Menace came out in cinema, I remember seeing it. I will admit, first time I watched it round, I did fall asleep in it. But I was only very young when it first ever came out, and revisited it after that point. Yeah, love Phantom Menace, love Revenge of the Sith, but yeah, love Ewoks again. It's the Ewoks are part of the Star Wars universe, so I respect it for that as well. And I personally don't mind them.
Yeah, I don't mind them either. I guess I get people being upset that, like, the Ewoks, like, or maybe finding it goofy that the Ewoks, like, are so pivotal in taking down the Empire at the end. But I love it so much, man. And there's so many great moments too in that last bit. There's that really one of the saddest parts in all of Star Wars has to do with Ewoks, which is when those two Ewoks are running away from the ATST and it shoots down at it. It shoots down at them. They kind of get blasted to the side. One of them gets up and is ready to go, grabs the arm of the other guy, and he's dead. And he's just kind of like this sad John Williams score. You got this Ewok resting his head on the body of this dead Ewok. It's a really small moment, but it breaks my heart every time I watch it. I see Q Reviews also said that he's a huge Ghostbusters fan, the 1984 one. Yeah, for sure. Definitely a great movie. Interpreting the Star set, it says, Q, 2016 was great too. Q responded with, "Oh no, 2016 Ghostbusters is trash."
It is.
I'll be completely honest. I only watched part of it, and maybe I'll rewatch the whole thing at some point and do a review. Are you a fan of the 2016 Ghostbusters?
No. I mean, the best part about the film, and I respect that they tried to do like an all women one, at least something a little bit different. But again, I just wish that one had like more originality to it than just copy and paste the first one, because fans have such an attachment with that first one. They're not gonna be like, oh, okay, well, this is a great installment. The best part of that film, and if you ever watch it, is Chris Hemsworth as the receptionist. He's the best bit.
Yeah, he was definitely the most charming part of the movie. That was at least fun and kind of funny to watch throughout. For what I saw, I didn't even. I think I saw bits and pieces of the climax, but I don't remember the reason, to be honest, why I didn't finish it. I think the time it came out, I was working at a movie theater, so I watched like bits and pieces of it while working at the movie theater. So I never actually sat down and watched it properly. But maybe one of these days I'll give it a proper shot when I actually go through those movies. Mr. Blue says that Revenge of the Sith is his favorite one. And they saw that when it first came out in 2005. Yes, as did I. I was in. I was in sixth grade. I was about 12 years old. And my mom let just like with the Phantom Menace and with Attack of the Clones, we went to the midnight premiere. My mom let me skip school that Friday, so because I was out late watching Star Wars, and I really have to praise my mom. I don't know if she'll probably watch this at some point, or maybe she's watching live. I don't know. My mom's a huge supporter of my channel and anything that I've done creatively, and she's been my main kind of like my whole life, like my ride or die, like Star Wars fan, like kind of partner, like, you know what I mean? Like my mom is a huge Star Wars fan as well. Goes to all the Star Wars events with me as well, like all the Star Wars celebrations, and we do the panels together. And growing up as a kid, she'd wait in lines for me for hours for me to be able to meet an actor or get an autograph. And now that I'm older, and I'm not as, when you're a kid, you're not thinking about your parent as much. So it's kind of like, wow, thanks, Mom. But now, she wanted to do the same thing. So now she's been taking advantage of her doing the same thing. She goes to these conventions, she meets these authors of books and actors and actresses. My mom actually has built a friendship over the years with Ashley Eckstein, who plays Ahsoka Tano on the Clone Wars and Rebels. Where now anytime that my mom is we're at any Star Wars event and Ashley Eckstein is present, she knows my mom's name, she knows her face. The second she sees her, she recognizes her. So I've gotten to meet Ashley Eckstein on a couple of occasions where my mom caught her attention, and then Ashley Eckstein came over to us and kind of just hung out and talked to us a couple times, which is really cool. That's probably one of my favorite things about the Star Wars community is I've been able to make these connections and get to meet a lot of these actors. Like I said,
awesome.
oh man, if I want to make a video on it. I need to kind of collect all of the images and like I have multiple posters with signs or like things that were signed. But I've met Mark Hamill, I've met Carrie Fisher, Peter Mayhew, Jake Lloyd, Ray Park, Anthony Daniels, Matthew Wood, John Boyega. I've just met. There's so many. I could just keep listing off. Ian McDiarmid. There's just so many. Luke, Han. I was gonna say Han. I wish I could meet Han, but Luke, Chewbacca, Leia, Palpatine, Darth Maul. I've met the actress. I can't remember her name, but the actress who played Shaak Ti, the actress who played Ayla Secura. I met the actor Jayla Gaia who played Captain Typho. I could literally just keep listing off and Star Wars has so many big and small characters, that you can, that for me, they're huge, and for some people they may be like inconsequential characters. I'm glad I got to meet Jake Lloyd before he ended up getting arrested. The guy who played a young Anakin in the Phantom Menace. I'm also a huge fan of him because of Jingle All the Way, probably my favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And so he was a really nice guy, really sweet. When I met him, I was walking up excited to meet Jake Lloyd, and he puts his hand out. He's like, "Hi, I'm Jake," and I'm like thinking to myself, "I know, I just paid $70 to meet you." But yeah, no, that was really cool. And meeting Palpatine was one of the coolest moments ever. To be able to meet Ian McDiarmid was such an exciting experience. Meeting Carrie Fisher before she passed was great because it was one of those things where it's very quick. It's a very quick process, when you go to these signings. But they asked if I wanted it personalized, which I did because I have a shot of Luke and Leia smiling at each other during the ceremony at the end of Episode 4, A New Hope, and I have both Mark and Carrie's signatures on there. And right when I met Mark, so the guy right in front of me, who was getting signed right in front of me, he brought the Arkham Asylum for him to sign, the actual copy of the game. For anybody who doesn't know, Mark Hamill plays the Joker in most Batman things. And so he asked the dude he asked Mark Hamill to do the voice when he handed him the game, and he did. So I got to stand there right to the side and watch him do the voice, which was epic. And I've actually met Mark Hamill on a couple of occasions. One time I met him on his way to the bathroom at Disney World, which was really nice, just to be able to kind of have a very casual moment with Mark Hamill. When I think back at a lot of these Star Wars moments I've had, I'm so grateful for him, and I kind of goes back to what I was saying, but my mom, super, super grateful to her. Kind of just always kind of supporting it and being a part of it and enjoying it and being able to applaud and cheer as we meet these actors and see these actors. I've met Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar. I just met him at Celebration 2 years ago, and I made it a point to walk up to him, and it was really brief. It's one of those things where you only have so much time. I have a photo with him, and I just walked up and I shook his hand and I looked him in the eyes and I said, "Thank you for my childhood." And you could just tell that he was so grateful for that, because at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody says, Jar Jar was such a big part of my childhood, and all these characters and all these actors have been. So to be able to meet any and all of them has been really great. There's so many that I still want to meet, like a Hayden Christensen, who I'm sure is I didn't meet him at this last celebration, and I should have. He's probably going to be ridiculously expensive to meet after Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out, so I probably missed my opportunity. But yeah, some of the bigger names, Samuel L. Jackson, Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, I've never, Harrison Ford, those are the ones that are going to be really hard. I have met Billy Dee, who played Lando, of course. So I've met a lot of really top tier actors, James Arnold Taylor, who plays the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Clone Wars and Rebels. The list goes on.
Yeah.
The list. Sam Witwer, who plays Starkiller in the Force Unleashed games, as well as Darth Maul in the animated stuff and in Solo. I mean, I've just met so many people. It's just been a real honor to be a part of all that. I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but I did.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Mr. Blue says that still is the best movie theater experience I ever had, along with millions other. Yeah, that was one of the greatest for sure. That opening night, you see, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, you could just hear you could feel the energy in the room. It was surging because at the time everybody thought it was going to be the last one, and then and everybody's lightsabers are going up. You hear people doing the Wookiee roars. It was like nothing else. Have you ever had what's probably the best theatrical experience that you've ever
had? It's a tough one. I don't know if I've had a favorite one. I would say though, I really did like the one I went to see, Force Awakens or Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, those
Just
two were
again,
great.
just again, as you said, like it's just the atmosphere. So, like Force Awakens, obviously first Star Wars movie in so many years, everyone was pumped for it. So I got to see it at midnight when it was shown as well, and again, it was awesome. Like people were clapping like as the film was starting, and just like people coming out of the cinema being like, wow, what a great film, or what like blew my expectations, whatever. And again, like the Avengers one. So when I went to see that at midnight, they had a double bill, so they showed Infinity War just before it. So again, you had just people like pumped up, being like, "Oh wow, it's so worth being up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like when the film finished and stuff." So I guess I've had like a couple, but I also kind of cherish ones when I was younger. So maybe more now than I did maybe then. But like I didn't, like every weekend or every couple of weeks, like my mum would take me and my younger brothers to just go see a movie and buy like family tickets and stuff like that, and we'd maybe go see like Ice Age, or she took us to see Revenge of the Sith as well at the time in 2005. And yeah, it's just like just those moments that for me just like create that just experience, because most time nowadays I either go with like say Emma, or I'll go with my nephew to see like a DC Marvel film. That's kind of like a tradition, or like movies I'm going to review by myself. I'll just go by myself, So it kind of just depends, man. Really.
For sure, yeah. I've definitely had a lot myself, because of just the nature of who I am and the fact that my mom has always been a big fan of this kind of stuff too. I've seen every single Star Wars movie and every single Marvel or DC movie, anything that's comic book related, specifically Marvel and DC, opening screening, or opening day at least, for my entire life. Anything that's come out since I've been born that it falls within that realm, I've seen it on the opening night, at least, with most of those being the first available screening at my theater. So as you can imagine, with every MCU movie, every DC movie that's released since then, like every Star Wars movie, I've had a lot of really big experiences with these big opening nights that have been really exciting. And when like The Force Awakens came out, I went to see it. I think I saw that movie probably about 15 times in theaters, and a lot of it, like opening weekend, I saw it like 4 times. And
Wow.
like that was just jam packed. Every theater experience was like very similar, And after I saw it the first time, now I got to kind of watch everybody else's reaction to these moments. Spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen The Force Awakens, but anything from like some of my favorite moments to feel, what I mean, was first of all the intro, being able to be in that theater after having seen it already, but knowing that most of them have not seen it again or haven't seen them at all, seen it at all. That opening, so you hear like bam, da, 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 everybody's reading it, everybody's just going crazy, and being able to kind of see everybody just so emotional as Star Wars was back was such an amazing feeling. Then there's just like little lines of dialogue. There's that great moment of like, what about that one? That ship is garbage. The garbage will do, and then the camera pans, and just seeing everybody's reaction to that shot of the Millennium Falcon and the Force Awakens is just so exciting. So like just seeing everybody's reaction after knowing that that's what's coming, it's you just can't help but smile, And then of course, like Han Solo's death at the end, like it's just seeing everybody's reaction, the gasp of air. The first time I saw it, the theater was dead quiet the entire time, and then if anybody made a peep, everybody was quick to be like shh, like nobody wanted anything to go wrong. Like I'm so glad that the first time I saw The Force Awakens, nobody wanted to even make a noise. Everybody just wanted to, take it in.
Disrespect each other.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, definitely disrespect each other. That experience.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Some people just don't know how to do that. Sorry, by the way, I just had to sneeze. I was dying.
Okay.
But yeah, some people they go in there and they're just rude about the experience, or they're loud. Because sometimes, as much as it is a good experience, it can kind of take away from it. Like Avengers Endgame, loved it, loved being in a theater packed with people who were excited. But at the end there, when people were coming back, in Endgame with the portals and everything, as much as I loved seeing everybody's excitement, I'm a pretty silent movie watcher. I'm not the guy who's like, woo, like I'm just kind of like sitting there and watching. Like, and so, with every character that showed up, you have this whole theater just I'm like, at a certain point, I'm like, shut up. I want to hear the music. I want to feel the moment. You know what I mean? So there's positives and negatives. Have you ever had like a situation like that where you feel like people are just too excited and you can't really pay attention to the movie?
Oh, man, So maybe not so much with that, but there was one experience I remember very specifically that, oh man, I wanted to just get up and leave. So it was kind of like an indie film I watched. I can't remember the title of it now. I really can't remember. So I went to. So again, like I usually go to the cinema by myself. Because like say for example, my partner's at work or my nephew's at college, whatever. And I like kind of going by myself as well, just for like kind of peace and quiet and stuff sometimes. And yeah, there was this one experience. I went to like a cinema that's maybe like 15, 20 minutes drive from where I live. And in the cinema, it's a massive theatre, but they have like some like smaller screenings for like films that aren't maybe going to do as well or they don't expect to do as well. So I was in this theatre where it had literally 4 rows. That was all this theatre had, 4 rows of seats, but obviously they were a bit like back from the screen. And I remember there was me, maybe one other person by themselves, not maybe 2 other people by themselves. And then there was this couple. So this couple came in maybe 10, 15 minutes, like just after the trailers were finishing before they showed the film. And they were on the phone. And don't get me wrong, sometimes when the trailer's on, I might be on my phone, but as it's coming towards the end of the trailers where you can kind of tell when it is, I always put my phone away. Just out of respect, and just like, right, that's it, done till the end of the film, whatever. Even if it vibrates, during the film, I'm not checking it out.
No.
And this couple, like, so the film was maybe about hour 40 minutes, and for the first 50 minutes of that film, they were on the phone in this small theater as well, and no one was saying anything. I was like, I didn't really want to say anything because there's like a guy and girl there. And the guy was like maybe like 6 foot tall, and I was like, I'm not saying anything to him. Definitely not. I'm only 5'6". I was like, I'll get squished. And yeah, just like they were on the phone, and they were like shuffling like shopping bags they'd picked up as well. And then the worst part about it is 50 minutes, like when they went off the phone, but then left. I was like, why did you even come out and check the film? Like even though the film was on, they didn't even watch the movie. They just went there to go on their phone, and I was like, why would you pay all that money just to go on your phone? And yeah, man, like just an experience like that. Or I remember like one film me and my girlfriend Emma went to see, Countdown, which I think came out year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
That's the one with like the cell phone thing that you're gonna die.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I never saw
it. I mean, she's a sucker for horror movies, and she's getting me into like a lot of the original ones, like the original Omen, for example. I've never seen it, but she's got me into it. But yeah, so we went to see Countdown, and like sat right next to us, there was like these 2 teenage girls. And the problem with these horror movies is they make the younger age ratings to attract more younger audiences. But like these 2 girls, for like most of the film, they just wouldn't shut up. They just. I thought, okay, like I'm gonna give it a little bit of time, because I was like, my girlfriend was like sat here, I was like sat next to her like that, and there was like these 2 girls, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna give them maybe a little bit of time just to, maybe just have a little bit of a giggle, whatever. Maybe they might end up shutting up. And the majority of the movie, they didn't shut up. So I got to the point I was like, look, can you just be quiet? And from that moment, they shut up. But it's just experiences like that. It just really annoys me. I'll purposely pick a quieter time to go watch a movie, so I don't have to experience that crap.
Yeah, that can definitely ruin it, man. Like I've had so many experiences where just like somebody was loud, or they let their kids be kind of rambunctious, and there's certain movies that it works for. There was a guy I used to go to movies with. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to offend him, but this guy that I used to know, and we used to just be so frustrated because every second, like, he would lean over to ask you a question. And eventually it's like, dude, we're watching the same movie for the first time. Like, we're working on the same amount of information. Like, let's talk about this after. Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes one thing I hate as a big movie fan is people who kind of they kind of view movies as like disposable content, like that kind of just something to throw on to kind of have in the background, which is not wrong. Like when it's always nice to have a movie that you're familiar with on in the background. When somebody's like, yeah, I watched that and I was doing laundry and chores at the same time, and I'm just like, you didn't watch it then. If there were any subtle cues to things, that maybe a camera pan to something on the wall, or if maybe somebody a nuanced performance moment, something that kind of like is kind of hinting at something to come, or you're missing all of that if you're somebody who's doing stuff while you're watching it. Like, I was talking to somebody
Definitely.
recently who was telling me that they and I get it, right? But like at the same time, it's like they were telling me how they only like to really watch stuff that they can kind of be on their phone at the same time, and I'm just like, then what's the point? Like, like what when
Yeah.
I do that, I do that when I'm watching like a YouTube video, for instance. Like if I have a text and like I'm watching like a review from somebody, like I'm still listening, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm still looking, but it's not like I'm watching a film. It's not like I'm watching something that I'm actually gonna try to
Yeah.
give a critique of afterwards.
Yeah.
It's more of just like I am watching, I'm listening. It's kind of like for instance, I listen to a lot of reviews of you guys while I'm driving. Driving is like a huge part of my like when I'm listening to reviews, and I think it's different thing to do something like that, or maybe if you have something that you've seen a bunch of times that you have on, or responding to a text here or there. But people who are like, yeah, I just want to be on my phone on social media the whole time while I watch something. It's like you're not really watching it. It's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, I think one funny experience I always think about is there was this one time that I was watching this movie called In Time with Justin Timberlake and Amanda
Love that
Seyfried.
movie.
Yeah, pretty good. I haven't seen it since then, but I'd like to revisit it. But I liked it a lot. And in the movie, during the movie, there was this family, like maybe like 4 or 5 rows ahead, and they were just like the kids were just running around, and the parents just weren't stopping them. And at some point in the movie, the guy that was sitting a couple seats to the right of my group, he just got up, threw his popcorn on the ground, and smashed his soda on the ground, and just ran out. He never came back, and he must have just been so over it. And I can also think about another time when I saw the 2010 Wolfman with Benicio del Toro, where there was a woman on her phone the whole time, and the guy behind her, and there were like a few rows ahead of me, the guy behind her said something about her phone, and then it turned into a whole-on argument. Like she stood up and was like, if I want to be on my phone, I can be on my phone. And now in the middle of this scene, you have this full-on argument and discussion that's taking place. And it's just like some people just have zero respect for, like you said, it's like, people who don't really care to be at the movie, working at the movie theater. I can't tell you how many times like people would come in and then we would accidentally find like a group of teenagers who bought tickets to like the Emoji Movie just because they like wanted to pick something that they knew somebody, Emoji Movie on Tuesday at noon. You know what I mean? Like that's when they'd go to see the Emoji Movie, and it's just because they wanted to go fuck in the background or like in the back of the theater or something. Like I can't tell you how many times that happened, dude. Like all the time. And so it's just like people just use movies sometimes in theaters as kind of like a place to just kind of I'm gonna act like this is my living room, and it's like you're ruining the sanctity of what a movie theater is. Before we get too much further, I saw this is the next comment, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this. Cinematic says, "Is there still room for more movie tattoos? Z review. If so, which movies?"
Ooh, movie tattoos. Well, I've got both my arms covered. Got Back to the Future and then like Batman towards the top. Movie tattoo wise though, no. I would say if I was to ever get another kind of movie or like series tattoo, probably Death Note. I just have such a passion for that series, but no. The short answer, no, man.
Yeah, I feel you. I have a lot of stuff planned out right now. I don't have my arms done yet.
Yeah.
I have this May the Force be with you wrist tattoo I got when I was like 19. I have this Mandalorian symbol up here that I got when I was 18. I got this like hand. This is from when I was singing. This is like a skeleton hand holding like a microphone. But I'm gonna fully sleeve them out. I'm working with my artist right now. Anybody who follows me on Instagram, you can see like videos of or pictures of my leg. Currently have on my calf. I have Chucky with Venom next to him and Stitch riding Venom with dual wielding pistols. And then I have Jack Skellington coming in on his Santa Claus sleigh with the Joker riding on the back of it with his fish gun from the animated series. And the reason that we're doing this right now, I was supposed to be getting tattooed right now. I was going to a tattoo appointment today, but we postponed it to next week because instead of coloring what we already have, we just decided we're going to outline the rest of the leg. So I just messaged him last night, the definitive characters that I'm going to do for the rest of my leg. I'm doing the Simba on my knee, right on the kneecap. I'm doing the young Simba with the red lion, like the flower mane that he has around his head during I Just Can't Wait to Be King. As well as we're going to do Mickey Mouse from Kingdom Hearts 2 in that specific outfit. Sora from Kingdom Hearts. The Wolfman. SpongeBob SquarePants. I'm being completely serious right now. As well as Nightcrawler, and I'm trying to remember who else I wrote on there. I wrote him a whole list of exactly what I wanted, and now I'm having a brain fart. But there's going to be a bunch of characters. I'm really excited about it.
I was going to say that question was more for you.
Yeah, I have so much room. I have so much I want to do. The left arm is going to be solely Star Wars. We're going to work on that afterwards. Already thinking about characters like General Grievous, and I'm really big into New School, which is like the very colorful, vibrant, almost cartoony tattoo style, where like certain like body features and like the eyes are kind of exaggerated and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see what he ends up doing. Interpreting the Stars says Revenge of the Sith is fun, but the transformation from I'm going to turn you over to the Jedi to I'm going to kill kids was way too quick. Understandable, and definitely agree with it. A bit of a quick turn. And not that it necessarily is like like the film still has that issue, but the Clone Wars, the CG series really does such a great job of really fleshing out Anakin's path and how he kind of trickled slowly to his way to the dark side over the course of the Clone Wars, because I think the downfall of the way that the movies were told was that you have Attack of the Clones that ends with the beginning of the Clone Wars. It's like literally that's one of the greatest lines at the end is Yoda saying, begun the Clone Wars has, and then you get that great shot of the entire clone army with the ships that will eventually become your more traditional Imperial ships, and I really enjoy like the kind of like the parallels to what's going to come. And then with Revenge of the Sith, right out of the gate, like literally movie opens with the war's about to end. So there's just so much in between those, and the Clone Wars really helps fill in that void. Q says, I used to watch the Ewok movies all the time. Yeah, man, I used to watch them all the time when I was younger too. I haven't seen them in years, but they're definitely not good. They're definitely not good.
Never seen them.
Yeah, I definitely recommend checking them out. Q. I mean, Z. I was gonna say Z. Because they're just goofy, and literally Wicket, the Ewok, the main Ewok from Return of the Jedi, he speaks English in the movie. The Ewoks speak English. So that's not just so you kind of get an idea of how they were made for TV Star Wars movies during the era where Star Wars was like, you can the commercials for Star Wars Underoos, get your Boba Fett undies, you know what I mean? And got kids dancing around in tidy whities, like that was in that era. We see Q Reviews said that he doesn't, of course, I know he doesn't like Rise of Skywalker. And he says Jar Jar is cool. I didn't mind him. Interpreting the Stars says that he rated Rise of Skywalker 93%, I believe. I
don't agree.
Where would you rate it? If you rate, I don't know if you have a rating in your head.
It just shouldn't exist.
I'm dead.
No. Don't get me wrong. I actually did enjoy that movie. I'm not going to sit here and say it was absolutely terrible, because it wasn't. It's just my thoughts is they should have kept Abrams as director for the full trilogy. Completely agree. Don't get me wrong, I completely like the idea that they had different directors that kind of do a different take on the film, but it's just, was it Rian Johnson did number 2? Last Jedi?
Yeah, Rian Johnson did the Last Jedi,
yeah. It's just, I just don't get why Abrams has set up this awesome Force Awakens and Rian Johnson didn't get a memo or whatever they told him, being right, just disregard that and do your own thing. They should have had a plan, being right, this is going to be this is what the trilogy is going to look like. Do your own take on number 2, but make sure it follows the first one and it leads into a good path into the Rise of Skywalker, and it didn't. And when Rey says Skywalker at the end, I know Rashad's talked about this as well. Nah, man, if Palpatine, I just don't get why.
Yeah, I think for me, right, I'm actually a huge fan of The Last Jedi. For me, I felt like it was me too. There was things I don't like about it. The biggest thing that I would change about that movie is Luke tossing the saber over his shoulder, only because I think that the finale of The Force Awakens is just so strong. That moment, when everybody was in the theater, you're seeing Luke Skywalker for the first time in years. there's that shot of Rey. She's like kind of emotional. She's got the lightsaber. He looks reluctant. The camera's panning around. You have the great classic Force theme that's playing, leading us into the finale. And just to know that seconds later he's going to go, yeet. Like, it doesn't ruin it for me, but it's kind of like that was a bit of a, like, I feel like it was kind of thrown in there for like a comedic kind of approach. And I think it kind of undercuts the intensity of the ending of The Force Awakens. But I love The Last Jedi overall. I like what they did with Luke. I've always enjoyed, what I like in Star Wars is like in the Clone Wars does it, Rebels does it, like painting the Jedi as not these like perfect beings, because they weren't. You know what I mean? Like they kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the whole idea. Is like they were these keepers of peace, and then this war started, and they kind of were tricked into being generals of this war, and then the image of what the Jedi was got muddied, and so I like the idea of Luke kind of looking back on it and being like, yeah, like that's like the Jedi, they fucked up. Like they really weren't shit. And in the middle of the worst time of their life, they let this dude who was playing both sides just reign supreme, and they kind of screwed everybody up. So I kind of have to, I like that. But I think Rise of Skywalker for me was like, I think it should have just played off of what ended up happening in The Last Jedi, whereas I feel like Rise of Skywalker took too much feedback from the fans. And I've always been very much of the mentality that listen to the fans to an extent, but do not let them. They're not the creator. Like I have never written a Star Wars story. Me, Anthony Perez, I know these movies like the back of my hand. I have never written and developed and produced a Star Wars narrative that has been released for people to be a part of. So at the end of the day, there's a point where me as a fan, I have to just sit back and say, shut the hell up, Anthony, and just watch the damn movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I sit with it. Is like this idea that I just kind of have to just shut the hell up at a certain point. Like I don't, and so like just kind of watch what the creators do. That's what they're paid for. That's why they're in the positions that they are. And sometimes you get weaker movies, but I feel like they catered too much to what fans wanted. And there's things like the Rey and Kylo kiss at the end. I don't feel it. It doesn't work for me. I didn't feel like she was calling him a monster the last two movies. It doesn't jive well with me on that level. The Palpatine thing. When I first saw the first trailer, I was at the panel when I was in the room. Like if I was at the panel in the room with the cast and crew when they showed the trailer for the first time. So when they showed that live stream for the first time for fans to see, I was in that room amongst those thousands of fans. I'll never forget the moment the trailer ended and you hear the Palpatine laugh. And then everybody was freaking out, losing their mind. And then there was one like singular light on the stage. And Ian McDiarmid stepped out on stage. Hadn't been on the panel the entire time, and he steps out. And so everybody goes ballistic again. We're all in the room freaking out. Like Ian McDiarmid is on the stage. We just heard Palpatine. Palpatine's coming back for Rise of Skywalker, and everybody was just so hyped. And then he pulls up the mic to his mouth as everybody gets quiet, and he just goes, "Roll it again." And then they play it again. Everybody goes crazy. And I think at the end of the day, I was excited. I was really looking forward to seeing this movie play out. And I think that they underexplained his reintroduction into the franchise. Then the novelization of the movie makes it more confusing by bringing in the fact that he was indeed a clone. So that the real Palpatine was dead, which is not new to Star Wars. They have done that before. Like Palpatine was a clone in some of the old books in Legends. So it's not a brand new concept, but I just think that the movie never touches on him being a clone. They never even discuss that. So as a movie, I feel like, I walked out of it thinking, well, who did Palpatine, get greasy with, to have a baby? Like, who did he get down and dirty with? Like, who was out there just like, touching his, shriveled, pruny balls? Like, I found it so hard to believe. Then it's like, okay, he's a clone, and that his son that we see in the flashback is a clone of him. But it was messy. I think that overall, the Palpatine reintroduction was just messy, which is what I really struggle with. I think that they did a good job of setting up. Sure, like I wanted to see more of Snoke, but whatever, we killed him. He was Palpatine 2.0, which essentially he very much was. And they set Kylo up to be the main villain. I think if Kylo had been the only and main villain in The Rise of Skywalker, it could have made for a far more cohesive and very focused narrative rather than having to throw in this big bad that it just at the end of the day just feels a little bit rushed. But I still love the movie. Let me with all of that said, with the music, the feel, the vibe, the sound effects, that world, these characters, I still really enjoy it. But I I don't know what it is. I just can't disconnect from my enjoyment of that movie in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Let's see. Worst review says Jar Jar is what makes Phantom Menace the best prequel. Fight me. Yeah, man, he's great, man, and I kind of hate what they've done with him in the series throughout the course of time now. Because for anybody who's not familiar, or maybe you don't remember, in Attack of the Clones, Jar Jar is the one who is essentially tricked while Padme is in hiding with Anakin. Jar Jar is the one who is tricked by Palpatine to give him to kind of like start the vote for emergency powers to be given to Palpatine. So at the end of the day, Jar Jar is really the one who eventually made Palpatine into the Emperor. I feel like a lot of people kind of forget that fact. And in the universe, in the Aftermath novels that take place after Return of the Jedi, we learned that Jar Jar has become a street clown and that he only is really enjoyed by kids because they know what his role was in like having Palpatine gain power. So now Jar Jar, that sweet character from the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and the brief scene we see him in Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars, goes on after Return of the Jedi to be a street clown, like a sad, depressed street clown that nobody likes but kids. And it's just like, his character did not deserve that. I hope that he shows up in something again. I feel like his character deserves a lot better than that.
Definitely. I agree.
Let's see. What were we going to say? Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I agree. Like as we've said before, I personally like Jar Jar Binks. I don't mind him.
Yeah, I think that the movie is a lot better than people. His character is a lot better than people give him credit. Q Review says Phantom Menace is a lot better than people give him credit. As I just said, it's an original story with cool characters. Yeah, for sure. Interpreting Star says that he's tied for him with Solo for the worst Star Wars movie. Totally disagree there. I really love Solo. I thought Solo was a lot more fun than it could have been, and I don't know what my least favorite. I think my least favorite movie in the franchise. It's hard because there's not a single one that's like a bad movie for me. I love them all. So I don't know. I would say probably like maybe Attack of the Clones is my least favorite, but then it has some of my favorite action in the whole series with the whole finale. So it's tough. What's your least favorite Star Wars movie?
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. I see Worth Reviews also agrees that it's Attack of the Clones. and I like the movie. Don't get me wrong. I like a lot about it. And there's just overall, when I look back at oh my God, I just refreshed the comments. Oh my God, bro. We're getting more. This is more comments that I've gotten in a while. Are you like a super famous or something? And I don't know this?
Not that I know. Might be. I don't know. Keep them rolling, man. Let's see what people are saying.
For sure. Interpreting Star says, man, when Yoda busted out that saber and started bouncing off the wall, that blew my mind when I saw Attack of the Clones. Yeah, I'll never forget that moment in theaters, man. Everybody just lost their minds. It was one of my favorite theatrical moments of all time. Like, I just have a vision of that moment that I've had my entire life. Q Review says, I have Rise of Skywalker at the bottom of the movies for the main Skywalker trilogy. It's super messy. Ewok movies and Solo don't really count on the main trilogy, at least for me. Well, what do you think about Rogue One? Because I think Rogue One is one of the best Star Wars movies ever made, in my opinion. What do you think about it? Do you like Rogue One?
I like Rogue One, yeah. I just love how the end of it just set up that kind of scene in The New Hope as well. I like Rogue One. What other Star Wars ones we had? So had Solo. Was there another one?
Yeah, there was Solo and Rogue One. They're the only spin-offs so far. Because Kenobi was supposed to be one of those anthology films, as well as a Boba Fett film. But Boba Fett was trickled into ended up getting put into The Mandalorian, and then now we're getting the Kenobi series instead. So I think a lot of that had to do with Solo being the first Star Wars failure, cinematic, theatrically. Like, it's definitely made its money back now in merchandising and the Disney parks and all that crap. Like, when I go around, I live here in Orlando. When I'm around the Disney parks, I see people in Solo merch all the time. So there's definitely fans of it. But I think people were still really down on The Last Jedi at the time, and there was just a lot of negativity, and it came out sandwiched in between, I believe, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and Deadpool 2. So it just came out, and nobody really wanted to see a recasted Han Solo. So I just think all of those factors and the timing that it came out, it just wasn't the big thing that they wanted it to be. I was always against the idea of a Solo movie, because I was just like, and they announced it right after The Force Awakens. I'm like, how are you going to kill off Han Solo and then announce somebody else is going to play Han Solo? That's criminal. But I ended up really liking the movie.
I don't mind it.
All right, I'm gonna get past some of these Star Wars comments of people talking to each other about Star Wars, and then let me see if there's something else in here. Q Review said having sex in the emoji movie. Yeah, so here's a funny story. There was one time. There's two different times that this happened. Actually, yeah. So there's two different times this happened. There was one time that these people bought tickets for a movie, and there was this two couples, and you could tell it was like the two boys that are just kind of like they do what they please, and they just had like two what seemed like innocent like girls that just kind of like bad boys, and like they're now at the movies with them. Like you ever see like that kind of relationship where it's like you could tell it's like the insecure girl who's like attracted to bad boys, and then you have this really just like I don't give a fuck kind of guy. So you had two couples, right? And they come in and they pick like a kids movie, and I knew exactly like come on, like, and they were like in their like late teens, and they picked like I don't remember what movie it was. This one wasn't the Emoji Movie, but it was something along those lines. Well, turns out that that the parents I had this literally happened twice. The parents were looking for one of the daughters, and they were like, hey, we were supposed to pick them up like an hour ago. We don't know where they are. They come in here. They explained to me what they look like. It was actually a pretty dead day, so I knew exactly who they were talking about. And I go, yeah, they're in this movie, blah, blah, blah. So we always had, our movie theater always had like when you go to a movie theater, you see like a police officer or somebody who's hanging around. I don't know if it's the same over there, but here we'll have like on a busy day, we'll have police officers that kind of hang around the theater just in case there's issues.
We don't have that. No, what I've seen before is like a movie attendee or worker there. Sometimes they'll come into the theater with like night vision goggles. I've seen that.
Oh wow, yeah, I haven't seen that. Well, we have that kind of thing too, but like we'll just have like maybe an officer on site who's like, well, at least when I was working there, where they would just kind of be in the lobby in case something happened. Which I did have a couple cases where something happened. Like there was one time this dude was like whacked out on drugs. He looked like he was about to punch me because I called him out and asked him if he was okay because he was like kicking the walls, and then he looked like he was gonna punch me. And I was like ready to throw down. I was like, I didn't really want to, but I was ready to throw down. And his friend came around the corner and was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Grabbed his friend, starts walking with him around the corner. Second, his friend took him around the corner. He punched his friend in the face. I'm like, oh, that was about to be me. That was about to be me. Yeah. So that was when and they tased him and he got back up. And I ended up finding out he was like on meth or something. So there was the incident that I was talking about before. The father went in with the police officer just to find his daughter. They were the only people in the theater. They flashed the flashlight, and the poor dad, and I walked in with them because I was like, oh yeah, this is the theater, this direction. They flashed the flashlight, and I got to stand there and watch this dad just sit there like as he watches his daughter sucking this dude off in the middle of the movie theater with the officer there, and I'm just like, oh my god, dude! Like I was just sitting there, like, and I just looked at the dad, and I was like, he kind of gave me a look of like, he gave me like that look of like, thanks for bringing me here to like where I needed to be, but like this also like sheer like heartbreak, and I just kind of gave him like a head nod, and I just walked out, like I left it with him and the officers, and then there was another incident where these people bought tickets for one movie, but they like theater hopped into another. So they asked me about it, and I told them what theater I thought they were supposed to be in, or the tickets that they bought. They weren't in there, so we went and checked the nearby like rated R movie. They were in there, and they were in the back, and they were once again the girls were doing the same thing, sucking these dudes off, and they go up the stairs, right? And the cop turns the flashlight on the dudes, and they're lying across the seats. The cop turns the flashlight on to the dudes, and the dude, for some reason, thought that the cop was his friend with his like phone flashlight, like that he was coming around fucking around. So then he starts looking. He thought it was like a phone, so he looks at the cop with the flashlight and starts like flicking him off, and is just like trying to act all cocky while the girl is down there doing her business. And then the cop turned the flashlight off, dude, and his face just everything changed right then and there. Like now, you're being escorted out by cops, and yeah, I definitely had my fair share of pretty hilarious theater experiences of having worked there, man. It's so funny.
Yeah, you should make a series and talk about these experiences. That's awesome.
I should honestly. I've been thinking about starting like just a series of what's it called? Just a series of like story videos of any kind. There's this one I've been wanting to make a video on called that I was just gonna title "We're Just Making Tacos," and in this story, there was just, I know you look giving me this face, but it's so weird, but it's something I kind of like think back to on so many occasions where I went to. So there was this Chipotle near you. You have Chipotle where you live?
No, but I've heard of it though.
Okay, so Chipotle is just like an American Mexican grill place. You get like bowls or burritos or tacos of rice, beans, various meats and all that jazz. And so I would go to this nearby one all the time. And at this specific one day I came in and I would always see people having interviews, and then lo and behold, I would see them eventually at some point because I was there so often. I would see them behind the line, so they got hired. But one day there was this dude that like total surfer dude. Just think about like the epitome of a surfer dude, blonde, long hair, just like somebody who just looks like they talk and just go whoa. And so he was having an interview, and like maybe like a week later, I came in and the dude was behind the line. But things were a bit hectic. The line was super long for Chipotle, and it seemed like apparently it was this guy's fault. He was getting everybody's orders wrong. Everybody was yelling at him everybody was yelling at him over the counter, and he was just messing up order after order. And then he was like, "Okay, I got this." Then he'd make the next one, and he just kept messing them all up. And people were screaming at him. His manager's looking pissed at him, and I'm just watching from the side like, this poor dude. He seems so unfazed. And at one point, like this group of people yelled at him again, and he just looked at everybody. He goes, everybody, we're just making tacos. And I always think about that dude. I'm like, I want that dude's energy, man. Like, he's like, we're just making tacos. And I'm like, people are yelling at him. I'm thinking if that was me, I'd probably be really stressed and pissed, and he just didn't care,
fantastic.
Man. Yeah, I've always loved looking back on that. I see Q Reviews here said that those tats are sick to Z Reviews, and also said the same to me, which made Interpreting the Stars say that he doesn't have any tattoos and that he should. Yeah, dude, you should get like a huge chest piece of like a freaking like phoenix just bursting out of your chest.
Oh, thanks, Q. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, look, here's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier with Rise of Skywalker. Somehow Palpatine returned. Literally, like the laziest kind of explanation, honestly, on how he returned.
Yeah.
Let me see. Rashad in here say, "What's good, David and Q? I'm just stopping by to listen and shoot the shit. I see I missed a lot. Hey, man, you can always go back and watch a little bit. There's a ton of stuff. Yeah, we were talking a lot." Interpreting the Stars says that Rogue One was his second best rated Star Wars film, and that Rashad said that Rogue One was dope. The Vader scene alone was worth the price of admission. Absolutely. So here's what I'll say really quickly. We've been on here for 2 hours. That has not felt like it. We've had a consistent flow of comments. I may have to do more of these during the day. Are you guys enjoying this more in the day one? I've had a lot of fun doing this, but looking at the time, I do have to start wrapping it up. I have some things to take care of today. But I've had so much fun doing this with you, man. It's been great to talk about. We've talked a lot about Star Wars and Back to the Future and all these various things. And listen, I got to say it again. For anybody who is not already subscribed to the Z Reviews channel, the link has been in the description box this entire time. So please go down there, go give him some love, let him know I sent you all that great stuff. If you are a fan of Back to the Future, movies in general, anime, all these various kinds of things, please go over to his channel. He's got so much great content over there that he's constantly putting his heart and soul into. He's got 2 great sleeves, a great background that just completely just shows his love for comic books and all these various things. Obviously, you see he's wearing a Thor shirt there. He has Funko Pop collection videos. I mean, if you are a geek like myself or like us, if you've been listening to this discussion and you can pretty much agree with or feel that you kind of feel the same way, I highly recommend go giving him some love over on his channel. So yeah, I want to kind of just give you the floor really quickly, man. For anybody who is not already subscribed to your channel, what can they expect in your channel beyond what I've said, or maybe just kind of giving your own version of it? And maybe what do you have coming out in the future that people can be excited for?
Yeah, man. Well, firstly, just thank you so much for having me on these live streams. It's been awesome. I've loved the spoiler ones we've done with the guys as well, but again, like me and yourself, like talk quite a lot, like pretty much every day at the moment. So it's just great to just have a chat with us guys. Yeah. Well, firstly, thanks so much for everyone in the comments as well. I mean, like you say, like most comments you've had, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I guess kind of going forward, what I've got planned. I've got Death Note 2 coming up with Anthony very shortly. It's been in the works, so it's coming very shortly. I also plan to do kind of a Death Note manga review. I've read the full book of that. It's over 1,000 or so pages near enough, I think. So I've read that. I've also really something that I want to kind of announce. I know I kind of did the other day on Class Act review, but I've got a series coming up where everyone who I've collabed with so far, we're going to be talking about terrible movies only. So it's going to be kind of like a terrible movies rant reviews. So I've got Blacktastic on there doing Battle LA. I've got Rashad doing Aqua Slash, which is like a horror theme park based movie. I've got Dave and Jacob jump on them, kind of in discussions about the films, and Perez mentioned that he's up for doing one as well, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, I guess kind of like as kind of Anthony was saying, kind of I just talk about Back to the Future, movies, random stuff, or sometimes here in the UK we have like new places opening, so I'll do like a place opening review, and yeah, just kind of bit of all sorts really. But I like to plan some reviews, but I also kind of like to just go into it blinded and just be like, right, on the day, okay, I've just checked out this movie, I'll talk about it, or I'll just kind of wait and see. But yeah, definitely come over and subscribe. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to Anthony's channel as well. If you want to see cinema stories of Anthony, leave a comment below, because I definitely want to see that as well.
Awesome, man. Well, that's a lot of great stuff going on over there. Again, I gotta say this, man. You're easily one of the kindest people I've ever met. One of the one of the nicest, and just so enthusiastic. We, like you mentioned a couple times here, we've talked pretty much recently, almost every day to some degree, and I'm super grateful for the various friends I've made here on YouTube that I'm able to do that with. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open with Z about all of the discouraging moments with views or whatever it may be. And he has been nothing but just filled with just enthusiasm and support and kindness. And I think it's so important. So please go over to his channel, go give him some love. And if you're also a fellow YouTuber, he is always he's just so enthusiastic to collab with people. So reach out to him, hit him up about collabs, because he's totally down. I look forward to doing more of these random ramblings. I kind of fell off for a couple weeks, and then there's some spoiler discussion videos coming. We'll be doing one for Falcon and the Winter Soldier when these last 2 episodes wrap up. And yeah, tons of great stuff coming, tons of more reviews coming out. Just dropped a review for Death Note, the 2006 Japanese version, with Blacktastic Media. Highly recommend you guys check that out. I'll be over on my channel soon, like you mentioned, for Death Note 2. I'll be over on Rashad's channel for Life, starring Eddie Murphy. I'll be over on Jacob's channel, Jacob Martin's channel for Sing Street. I'll be over on Interpreting the Stars channel for Master of Disguise, which I'm really looking forward to revisiting. And over on my channel, there's just tons. I got a double feature review coming out very soon for Saw, the final chapter, and Jigsaw. I'm just going to combine the 2 into one video. And tons of other great collabs and series reviews. I'm going to be dropping a series review hopefully soon for The Office, Parks and Recreation, and The Witcher, which I've recently all rewatched or watched for the first time as far as The Witcher goes. And I'm going to be dropping those reviews. I've been a little bit behind on my series reviews because obviously I've watched all of those recently and haven't gotten those videos out. But either way, thank you again, Mike, for being here in this video, and to everybody else who's watching. Link to a channel down below in the description box. Give them some love. Let them know I sent you. Any final words, my friend?
No, just again, man, thanks so much for having me. It's just been a blast.
Absolutely, man. It was a great time. And to everybody else, thank you for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.